Yeah, already. We need an HR volunteer. For the harassment, you mean?
Did you not eat?
No, it's not happening.
Yeah, I ate. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, it wasn't bad, but the brisket was good. It just wasn't
So you just keep on streaming or what? I'm just gonna stick my face right in the middle of it.
This until we go.
Oh, 4 people are watching.
Already, yes.
Is that 3 of them right there?
No.
Everyone was late, and instead of just some people. Yes.
Nathan was not late.
Nathan was calling everybody.
Which Nathan?
Which Nathan? Oh, Paul's.
All right, so on we go. Communications department is next. So, Mr. Miller, are you ready?
Oh, look, he's ready. No.
I had to figure out how to get this over. I was going to ask you.
All right. So as many of you may know, I'm not Kyle Ward. In case you don't, I'm Jeff Miller, your friendly social media coordinator. Thank you. I didn't even expect applause. I'm overwhelmed. I didn't know. Yeah, the first part of this is just gonna be me basically really quickly going through what Kyle put as projects. And I'll say that if you have any questions about any of that, then contact Kyle. In fact, respond to his post on the forum where he put the report, because nobody ever replies and it's sad. We want to make him happy. And also, you know, if you actually have questions, that's the best way to get an answer. He also is really responsive on Discord and things like that. So by all means, if you got questions for Kyle, hit him with them. If you have specific social media questions, then, you know, obviously you can ask me. But the first thing on there is just about the kinds of posts that we make by default on social media. When there's not a particular event or fundraising drive or any particular thing, then we have sort of things on the back burner that are prepared to kind of fill up our accounts with. So that's all that really means. The part about the Canva account, we have a budget for that apparently we have the opportunity to change to a nonprofit version of the account and save some money, which is always good when we can do that. So that's what that's about. He really wanted me to stress the newsletter volunteers. We haven't had, we've had not enough information or not enough people working on that struggled a bit with that. And that's part of what Kyle Russell mentioned earlier about the website and filling up that news section, because that's part of the same process. The more that we have people helping with that process, the more we can have our website also updated and have it so people can see current events and not something from months ago. And the media outlet follow-ups is more just about Kyle reaching out to more traditional media and trying to establish more relationships with those type of people. And let's see, on the horizon, we didn't really talk a lot about media strategy. So again, I think that's just something he wants to have meetings around and kind of focus everybody in the department on. So again, if you have specific questions, then you can refer those to Kyle. The future projects, there's a couple of different video projects. The preamble one is
Please,
yeah, Amanda.
please, I would love to get state leadership to like record themselves saying the preamble, and then I am a Texas Libertarian. I have a whole little script, please.
And we're talking about the preamble of the LB Texas platform.
Yes.
So the more people we can get doing that, the more we can make an impressive video. The state party video he's referring to is just kind of more of like an advertisement, like more of a general, kind of generic advertisement for the party type idea, which again, he said he's got like a contractor in mind, but if there's ideas you have to submit for those things, then that'd be great too. And I want to just say from the social media aspect, that same theme of if you have ideas, because people love to say, oh, we're not messaging right, or we're not doing this right or wrong. If you have ideas, we would like to hear them. So please submit them to me or to Kyle, and whatever things that you think we should be doing that we're not, let us know. We're your social media team, your communications team. So if we don't hear from you, then we just have to go with what we know. So it's give us some information. So the next stuff is Kyle's usual breakdown of the analytics stuff. And at first, if you look at these numbers, you might worry about them a little bit. The numbers are down, but there's actually some reasons for that are not just everybody decided to hate us. For one thing, Twitter, as you may know, if you don't pay attention, or you do pay attention, has been through a lot of changes lately. It's X, it's Twix, whatever you want to call it. Twix. Not only have they like I think purged a lot of old accounts and bots and stuff like that, but also they've made it where if you're like me in your personal account, you didn't pay for a little check mark, then if you're just scrolling through a feed or somebody's account, it stops you, or you get to a point where it goes, no, that's enough. You don't get to read any more than that. And that sort of thing, I think, hurts people that if they just discover us through a post and they want to scroll through our content, then they hit a wall where it's like, oh, well, I guess that's all I can see. So it's only going to show them the last several posts that we made. So anyway, that's that's just a few of the reasons why those numbers may have dropped. Another one is just the particular political season that we're in. You know, it was summer, everybody pays less attention to politics and stuff like that. It really starts to ramp up more as we get into the season we're heading into with presidential election and all that sort of stuff. But here's as usual, example of some of our best responses to content. I'm particularly proud of that one there on the middle right because I made that one. That was a response to Charlie Kirk, who was deciding to grift on people again and say that Juneteenth was I'm trying to remember what he called it, like a race-based competitor to the 4th of July. Yeah, that's what he called it. So anybody, even the Republicans in Texas know that that's not what Juneteenth is. So that was a pretty easy one. You can see some of our other.
I think you overestimate people who should know.
I try not to make too many estimates, so I'll say some of them. Hopefully, the more educated ones. That one was fun. The Gonzalez flag one, because I didn't put any text in that one. That was when Gavin Newsom did his post about proposing a new amendment to the Constitution to ban assault weapons. So that was just my reply, and it got more. It got a lot of response from that without even having to say anything with that. Because sometimes that's all it takes. Let's see. Okay, so Facebook. What Kyle's got there is, again, some of the numbers are down, but the engagement rate is higher. So even if we haven't gained followers, the people that are paying attention are communicating more with us. We're getting more replies and things like that. So those are good signs. This I thought was a real good section because it illustrates 3 posts that all got good response that are 3 different types of posts that we do. Because the first one was about the rooftop Koreans and the LA riots. So it's kind of like a historical reference to say, here's somebody who accomplished something in the past, here's how it relates to today. And then we've got the middle one, which is just a striking juxtaposition of Democrats, Republicans versus Libertarians, where all I put was stop the violence, support Libertarians, and the donation link. And then on the right-hand side, we've got something where we're showing an event with Libertarians in the community being part of something. So 3 different types of posts that all got good responses. So that's part of the key, is kind of having a variety of those sort of things. Let's see, so there's some more of those. We got a lot of good response from that one election thing with all the years crossed out. I'm particularly fond of that kind of message because so often people act like history started a couple weeks ago, and you have to remind them, we've heard all this before.
Right.
There's a reason why we're telling you the old parties don't mean what they say. So YouTube, we're still getting view time, so thankfully they haven't forgotten about us. We haven't posted a lot of videos. I hope to change that. That's something Amanda and I have talked about, being more active in terms of posting videos. So, I place some of the blame on myself for not doing as much of those. I've made thousands of YouTube videos personally on my channel and other channels, but I haven't been focusing on that. But anyway, there's the view counts and stuff for that. Roll on by. Reddit. What he wanted to talk about on Reddit is just because none of the state Libertarian Party accounts besides us are on Reddit. So what he's done is cross-post some of the other state parties' content also. So we've got basically kind of all the attention is funneled to us where it comes from. So the people on Reddit are looking at us as the representatives of Libertarians, which I don't have any problem with that. Anyway, I'm not going to pretend I know the karma and all that, how that works, but submitted karma. I guess
Because then
Reddit is.
people like your things, and then they can thumbs down you, and it's
Yeah,
bad
okay, so
karma.
it's just another version of liking and disliking, basically.
It's a ratio of your likes.
So yeah, here's some examples of our karma, one way or the other. And then TikTok is definitely one of the ones that's grown. I think TikTok and Instagram have been our top things in terms of new attention. I mean, when I first got this position and we were looking at Instagram, we generally were getting only like single-digit responses to things, and we've gotten a lot more. This is still the TikTok, but you know, both of those. You know, this is the world we're in, where really quick stuff is what people pay attention to. They scroll through short videos, tons of them. So when you have that type of content, you can get people's attention with that are not going to read like a long Facebook post and things like that. Yeah. So Instagram is, like I said, looking up and thinking about that. I really feel like we have an opportunity in social media in general, because if you look at the Democrats and Republicans, especially in Texas with their state stuff, they're not really that active, not as much as you would think they would with the budgets they have compared to us. And so I look at that as a lot of their people, it skews older, and that younger generation, the social media generation, I call it that, is there and ripe for the picking if we appeal to them in the right way. So, let's see the website. Okay, go ahead.
Did post a press release.
Yeah, I guess that was like right near the.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was, thank you, Jesse. Jesse wrote a press release for this weekend to get out. It went out to like 500 media reps across Texas, specifically those that were local. And that was right before this. So he may have published this before,
Yeah, probably
prior to
early,
it going out. So it just went out last week. It was a press release, and I'm not aware that we've gotten any responses to it, but still went out.
That's been my experience in Brazos County, the responses when I do press releases.
And I know if we sent you a copy that you could distribute as you see fit.
Yeah. Somebody got it. He showed up. Well, he was at lunch.
So yeah, this is stuff about the website, and a lot of that goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier with some of the issues we've had with the platform itself. I don't mean the platform, but you know, the media, the website system, and you know, we're headed in the right direction on all that. So we expect, and especially with the convention and other things coming up, those numbers will go up as we give them more reason to go to the website in this quarter. In Discord, we haven't really like advertised our Discord, so I'm not surprised that, you know, we don't have like growth in terms of that. So that's one thing Kyle and I talked about, is possibly, you know, posting that in more places, because I've seen that get people's attention. And okay, so department wants editorial writers, newsletter writers. The editorial writers, I guess, is for more like for those media people that we're talking about in getting stuff published. We've had some success with some of. I know Jesse had something published. We've had some people that have actually posted those things that when we've made them. And newsletter, again, that we need people to give us content for that, and things that we can stay relevant in the news, and that the media outlets I talked about a little bit earlier. But in general, I wanted to say, if you run a county account, or you know the people that do for your county, and you have social media accounts, be active on them and let me know what you're doing. I'll repost things. If you can't, if you don't have time to make a whole thing yourself, send it to me with the facts and I'll make a post. The more that we can have, you know, posts that are about what we're doing in communities and what's going on in your area, the more we can cover things and not just, you know, have to come up with everything from one place. You know, the more that more pictures and videos and things like that that you have, the better, because we can just blanket things with as many things like that as we can do. All right, that's the end of that one. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for me while I'm here? Oh, sorry.
Showing it kind
Okay. He was giving me a signal.
So this is a question for regarding tax Twitter.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if this Kate would probably have some input on this, but have we looked at the new monetization subscription model for Twitter?
I mean, my first answer is I haven't. So I think that's probably one of the things that we need to have a meeting about and figure out how we're going to go forward with the way things are with that. I know for a while there, it's like there were changes happening all the time. There still seems to be in terms of the way things operate on there. So it's hard to go forward when you don't know for sure what they're gonna do next, but we do need to talk about that and figure out exactly how we're gonna.
We have paid for, I want to say it was for the check mark,
Right, yeah, we did do that.
and I think there were some perks that came with that.
Right, and the monetization though is if you have a check mark, and if you can reach a certain number of impressions over 90 days, you can start being ads in all of your posts, and you can actually get subscribers, which could be donations, and then you just earn money.
Yeah, let me see how that works, because I know that TEC has nothing about social media, monetization, or Bitcoin, anything that is modern finances. There is zero
Use it while
information.
Madam Chair.
Wow, we can.
And I would actually have to
Apologize
propose
after
to TEC's board a proposal that they would then vote on to actually blanket that policy for the entire political, So,
Make sure you bring your
Madam
app.
Chair, comments expired.
Thank you. Yeah, there are some complications with that kind of revenue generation.
yes.
Definitely something to look into. Just in case. Okay, time has expired. I had, you raised your hand to tell me that. Darren, did you have something that?
I just wanted to let Jeff know, in our county, our local paper allows us to write editorials. So it's only 600 words, but we have a bunch of them saved, and between Nolan and I, it's usually Nolan Schmidt and I that write them, but a few of our other people have. But we have a lot of those. I don't know exactly what you're needing editorials for specifically, but we have a lot on a lot of different subjects, and both of us are willing to write if you have a need for it. I know that's not your specific thing.
Right,
but-
it sounds good. I think it was mainly talking about like traditional media and kind of getting their spot. So basically, when we have a comment on something going on, that we get in the door and publish on.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Jenny?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
How are y'all doing? For the first time, I was standing back there going, I think this is the first time since I've started working for LP Texas that I don't stand up and say, well, I have all these obstacles. Because now I have. But Nation Builder is not an obstacle. It is a wonderful gift. And I posted my report, and you guys can read some details. I just want to cover some highlights instead of just like stand up here and read my words. I want to tell you some like the Jenny take on it. And so where we've been, the Legislative Action Fund was a success. The previous session term, we wanted to raise like 7,000. This time it was 15, and we exceeded that. So thank you guys. Thank you. And we added 2 new lifetime members from the last time I reported, and that's Nolan Schmidt and Stephanie Berlin. Thank you. I'll tell you a little bit more about how we're going to be promoting stuff and how now that my hands are tied. And so now where we are, I meet with Judy Lehman on a weekly basis in person. She lives about an hour from me, and hour and a half, and she's willing to drive, and we meet at my house, and we have eyes on things and have been working through some systems. And at first, it was to work through all the tedious systems of pulling data from these different places, basically everything I was low-key whining about at the last meeting. And so now that is underway. Now she is taking on a lot of the donor appreciation program rewards, and I now have added Matthew Gibbs is now in my department, and he's handling some of the data stuff. We have to wrangle data. Even with Nation Builder, we have stuff to organize to be able to tell who qualifies for what level of donor appreciation program rewards. That is a mouthful for the record. DAP.
Or, you're dapper once you have all your stuff.
Oh, I like that. So for my dapper folks. So that's been a big help. So that's current. And he just came on. So as far as like where we are now. I touch base with him via text. He's constantly asking me how he can help. It's wonderful. And so he's going to handle a lot of the data part for us. And so technically, as been reported, membership numbers are down. And it's not fun to say that, but I can honestly say it's because my hands were literally tied. We were dead in the water until we switched over to Nation Builder. So while we're in Civi, say someone had a declined credit card. Normal protocol is just to call them or text them and say, hey, you had a declined card, and they get right on it and the payment is made up. And then they're currently within our authorized payment processor thing. But now we're about to integrate everything. Nation Builder is going to handle our payment processing and everything like that. So if I were to tell you that, then you would go into our old system and start your new donation over again. And then I would have to call you in a week and say, can you please switch again, like we did last year? And so I've been kind of holding off. So if I see a declined card, I kind of like, can I call them yet? Because then if they start a new donation, it goes right into Nation Builder, and it's not a switchover situation. It's pretty seamless. Austin knows. So that whole situation is basically like streamlined through Nation Builder, and it's going to be amazing. So you should see the next time we get together in November, I'm going to be able to report some wonderful, wonderful results because our donations will be up because my hands aren't tied anymore. We're not just bobbing in the water until we can get things going. So with that, I just want to say I'm very grateful to the people who are making that happen. I've had a lot of interaction with Austin and Andrew on a personal basis. We had phone time, and then I remember one long conversation with Austin. I was like, see, it's really bad. He's like, yeah, it's really bad. We're talking about Civi and the whole kind of transition to that. So it was really nice. I felt seen in that phone call. It's great. And where we're headed, we're going to bump up some numbers. We've got some sort of like donor campaigns on the forefront. One of my favorites, and I have been waiting for, I want to do a Yellow Rose Revolution to get as many people as I can to have one of those adorable Yellow Rose pens.
Best one.
But if you want to donate more, that's fine. So what happened was when I first came up here in February, I think, John Wilford, I really wish he was here. He was like, so are you going to be okay with delegating a lot of what you do now? And so a lot of what I was doing at the time was creative social media posts that had to do with asks in a way that was fairly creative, more of a, cheerleader kind of thing. And he said, are you okay to delegate that? And I was like, yeah, if someone wants to step up and write some, compelling content, yeah, I'm in for, let's do that. No one volunteered to do that. And then all my time got spent trying to figure out how to get our numbers all in shape with the DAP and the rewards and how that worked with the numbers and the whole workaround thing that I have to do. And I appreciate John's question, but what I realized is that what I really needed is someone to handle the numbers. And that's what's happening with Judy and Matt. And so then I get to go back to creative stuff. I can have more time for phone calls for some of our larger donors and just some people who would like some personal attention, and we could do some more brainstorming at a higher level. So I'm really excited about getting to flex a little in that kind of the creative asking versus getting down in the weeds of like who qualifies for what, and then who do I need to contact. And y'all, there are a million ways to contact you to tell you you have a decline card. Like if there's text and Discord and Facebook, and sometimes that I don't get any responses. So having someone else like cover all those bases is going to be really good for me personally and for us. So the last thing I want to mention is that apparently there was a conversation at breakfast this morning that I was not there, but I got told about it. And Kate made a comment that we don't have any diamond members at this time. And then Mike Coogan said, hold my beer. And Mike Coogan is our first diamond monthly donor. So thank you, Mike. And then let's see, I also have another really cool moment. Joe Burns came to me today, I think he said, he goes, what do I need to do to get that gold pin? And I'm ready to like pop in whatever I need to. And I was like, okay. And so Joe, now the gold, if you want to know these levels, let me just interrupt myself. It's on the website and it's under, if you go to donation and then you click on, it looks like a link for the Donor Appreciation Program Reward and it lines out everything. Just letting you know that, you know, in case you want to level up. But Joe has leveled up to the Lone Star Pen. He is our 8th Lone Star Pen. Thank you. And so I got all excited and then I leveled up too. And so next time you see me, I'll have a Heart of Texas pin. So I'm kind of excited about that. So the next thing, okay, so last summer, I was like, hey guys, we're switching from Nation Builder to Civi. So I need everyone in this room, if you are a monthly donor of any kind, even if it's legal fund or legislative action fund, because I do have some monthly donors who donate to those funds on a regular basis. Last time, I hope it's the last time. I need you guys to start a new donation. If you need details, last summer, I spent like 2 months pretty much calling every single monthly donor and saying, these are the last 4 digits of your credit card that you're using now. This is when your payment goes through. I don't have the bandwidth to do that this time. So if you would, start a new donation. If you need information from me, I'm happy to answer that. I'll need it through email so that I can keep track of everything. And if you want to level up, I can also tell you how much you need to get to your next level. So feel free to email me about that. But that,
You can look dapper.
yes, you can be dapper too. We can all look like Nathan Polsky's suit. Okay, so I think I'm good on time. Any questions? Oh,
Well, I just want to clarify something while you're setting that up.
okay,
If that's okay.
okay.
I do want to clarify, your donation that was already in existence prior with the Civi no longer exists. That's why we need you to it doesn't matter if you're at your renewal point or not, and for the year or whatever, everybody has to renew. So as of right now, nobody is a monthly member, unless you go into the website now and re-sign up. I fulfilled my obligation of going to $100 a month at the platinum level at lunch. And I know Jody also leveled up. And thank you, Mike Coogan. And then I would love to shout out for more people. I know Jenny would too. So make sure you get on the website and start that monthly donation.
So if you are a monthly or a yearly
And
donator,
Marino.
that's no longer existing?
Yes, ma'am.
No, you started with the goal. Thank you.
Oh.
Monthly or annual. Some of the reason our membership dropped off is because the annual didn't renew automatically. They didn't get updated within the Civi system. So not annual so much, because then people will be aware. We will have those people to contact. Annual won't be affected as much as monthly.
Okay, so we can confirm if we're monthly or annual if you're still in the system.
Mm-hmm. You can contact me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is not lost, just the subscription.
Just the ability to, yeah.
Thank you, Nathan. So I'm confused. My next. I'm confused. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm confused.
Okay.
It seemed like earlier there was a discussion about if we changed our donation or if we did something, then we needed to let you know so that you could take us off of the old system. Am I confusing two different things here? What's the skinny?
Okay. So we have a new system. Okay. And the new system is not going to be separate from our payment processor. So it's the same thing. I think the language can be a little confusing, but we're going to go through a new website basically that's going to have all our data, and we're going to have to leave behind our other payment processors so we don't have to keep track of that. It won't integrate into Nation Builder. We couldn't just automatically say, hey, can you just populate this for us? Man, I wish that could have happened. So is that helping a little? We do need you to, because we're going to have to turn off the old payment processor.
Your payment information is being lost because we're no longer using that donation system.
Yeah.
I got that part.
Not your history, just your credit card
Just
number.
the
We can't
subscription, the
grab
existing
that.
subscription
What I don't
is
understand is why the previous comment was made earlier today, that if we change our donation or whatever, that we needed to let you know. What did that do?
Andrew said
Oh.
to email you to get us off the old.
Yeah, that lets me know that I can go into authorized, which we'll have just for a little while longer because we don't want to lose that revenue, but we have to let it go. I can go in there and cancel that credit card charge, so you won't get
Well,
charged.
it hasn't been done yet, but it's close.
Right, and I don't want to,
Thank you.
okay,
Clarified that for me.
yeah. Okay. Okay, and I
7
dropped-
minutes.
oh, I dropped the ball. I really wanted to pin Joe, so.
Straight through.
He's a cowboy.
Why don't we
Here,
get-
here.
If you don't draw blood, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions before I say one more thing? Okay, so my last thing is, thank you guys. Thank you for giving me a chance. I know I wanted my job anyway. But I feel like you guys have given me a lot of room to grow and explore and make this into something great. And the support here, I'm really excited when Jeff came up and said, hey, let me know what you need on social media. Because a couple of years ago, our departments were really separated. Thank you, Andrew, for keeping us all in touch with each other and figuring out how to work together. Yeah.
That just reminded me,
Oh.
of that conversation with you, but I also didn't mention, anyone who does any local fundraisers, let me know that too, so I can front it out. I know Dallas County did one recently we put out, so if you have a local thing like that, we can put that out too on the whole state and get that motion.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I used to have to do that all on my own. Like, it was just, we were all kind of feeling our way through it, and it was like, okay, so I'll make this social media post, and I'll put it up on LP Texas, and I'll make sure everybody knows about it. We'll have a newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And so the fact that Jeff just came to me today, he's like, hey, next fundraiser you do, just send it to me, and I'll make sure it gets to all the right places. I was dumbfounded. It was great. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone who's working so hard. I'm super honored to have this job, and I hope to have a much better report in November.
Good afternoon, everyone. Frank Lozano, for those of you who don't know me. Political action report. So let's start from the top. So we're going into 2024 election season. So the biggest ask right now is to get some candidates. In a minute, I'm going to go through some of the districts that kind of identified a little bit as maybe potentially we can target, and I'll kind of go into the reasons for that. However, from everybody's districts, I am asking if you guys know anyone who wants to run for any partisan position, then please, get them in contact with us so we can try to guide them towards the proper place. Hoping by the end of next month at least, I'll have an updated candidate training manual up. It's the one that's been floating around a couple of years, but hopefully we can get some more updated information on that. Hopefully I'm not saying anything controversial here, but we need candidates on every level. So the state level, we're still at least a few cycles away from a path to victory, unfortunately. I'm just trying to be realistic with all, but they are good. We need every state position, every statewide candidate position to be filled, not only to hit our threshold so we can continue to get ballot access, but also they're great communicators. Like we had Jaime Diaz, we had Mark Tippett last cycle, and they, didn't win, but they got a lot of votes, they got a lot of engagement, and they got a lot of good message out. So that's what we need the top candidates for. We also hopefully need the candidates down ballot as well, because that's our feeder. We're trying to build out a bench. We need those people running in nonpartisan elections. If you know anyone that's interested in actually winning, stop. I get a lot of calls from people who say, "Oh, I want to run for president or whatever." Okay, but if you actually do want to win, run for those nonpartisan races. We need to build out the bench, and if we can get people to start winning at the nonpartisan level, which is the easiest level to win at compared to higher offices, then we can start going up from there. You could go down to the next page, please. So this is kind of our timeline for 2024 cycle. So right now we're in the kind of identifying competitive districts. I'll get into that in a minute. And then we're quickly getting into the finding candidates. The filing deadline this year December 13th, 6 p.m. We need to get everyone, that intends to run signed up by that point, ideally also paying their filing fees as well. I've had questions where is the party paying for people's filing fees? And the answer is no. You can fundraise for those and you can use that money to pay for it, but we don't have the resources for that. Right, so do that. And then Political Action Department's goal to 2024 is to feed the data to candidates. We have the L2 data. If anyone's been poking around in it, it's a great resource. You can even, at the county level, you can buy data and you can create, kind of walk lists to do canvassing. So that's a really good use for that. And if you could go down to the next section. So L2 data mining. So the formatting came out a little bit odd on this one, but what my thought process on this was go to the races that have the closest margins, so that way we can make an impact in those races. Either, I don't know if spoiler candidate is a dirty word, but we can influence those races in that manner. And then also, the races where you have the highest partisan shift. So counties that are shifting red to blue or blue to red, those might be a place where people are fed up with the entrenched party in power in that specific section of the state, and then they're looking for alternatives. So we can try to soak those up. That's one strategy. So if you see your name as a SLEC rep, that means extra responsibility on those races, because we want to find people in those specific counties. We want to find people for every district, but especially these are some of the closest. If you go down a little bit, some of the closest. I have some notes on the side there. I won't go through them all because it's been on the forum, but these are some of the more close races with lower margins, lower percentages, lower vote totals, difference between the Republican and Democrat that have won. So we could, if we have candidates that are good, that are high quality, that are getting our message out, we can really, make some upset, draw some headlines, and then build momentum going into the future. Like I said, we might be a few cycles optimistically away from winning at the statewide level, but at the more local levels and the lower races, we're a lot closer than we might otherwise think, especially now that we are armed with this data.
And we put this together before we had some resignations on the body, on the board. So if you see names up there that are no longer part of SLEC, that's a timing issue.
Right. So whoever their replacements are, pick up the torch. You can go down a little bit. So there is a special election coming up. So this November we'll have a special election in HD2. So this is a district that's just east of DFW.
That's my new district.
Okay, perfect. Well, if you know anyone, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone. The filing deadline is September 6th for this race. You do have to live in HD2 to run for it. For our U.S. congressional districts, anyone can run in any district, but for House districts for Texas, you have to live in that district. So there's some residency requirements.
It's a time frame too. You have to reside in it within
Right.
6 months.
You have to reside in it for at
Or
least.
I would have been running for this.
For at least 6 months, you have to live in that district. So if anyone knows anyone in HD2, it would be nice to run someone there, because this is going to be a special election. Those are the lowest turnout elections. Those are our best opportunities to get someone in. It's a tough challenge, but if we have any shot whatsoever, it's going to be in these special elections. Dates for local conventions. So in the past, I've had questions and people have wondered when there's if I'm insulting your intelligence, I apologize, but sometimes it can get tricky with the wording, because the second Saturday in April, unless it's Easter, unless that month's a blue moon, then it moves to March. That part will be a little bit facetious, but these are the dates for the precinct, the county, and the district conventions. So if you're a county chair, which I know a lot of us wear multiple hats here, then put those precinct and county conventions on your calendar, and actually a month before, because you'll have to post notice to the county commissioners board. And if you have a website, then post notice there as well. And of course, obviously post it on our new website. With plenty of time of notice. I don't know off the top of my head what the notice is, but I guess a good rule of thumb is at least 30 days before these dates. Make sure you have the notice up there, and ideally more time. District conventions only if you're going to have if you're going to nominate someone that's in a multi-county district. And then we already have our date for state conventions. Oh yeah, and then constitutional amendments. So besides that special House election in November, the only other things that's coming out on our ballots, statewide at least, would be the constitutional amendments. Now, I didn't hear any questions in the forum. I don't know if that means that everyone's in agreement with these positions or if we need more time. So I wasn't gonna ask for a motion to put these recommended positions out there. However, if the body feels comfortable with them, it would be helpful to have those.
Do you need a graphic made for that?
Well, yeah, that's what
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. It would be nice to have a graphic made for them, but they have to be approved first. So this is just the kind of recommendation that I put together with a little, title of the amendment, the effect that it will have, a short explanation of such, and a recommended position based on our platform with citations to the platform. There's some areas where our platform committee take note that there's some omissions. We do have an omission clause in the platform, so it doesn't mean that we don't take any position on it. It just hasn't been enumerated. But like, for instance, there's a prohibition on the wealth tax. We don't actually have a specific plank in our platform that says that we oppose a wealth tax. I'm sure that doesn't mean that we don't oppose a wealth tax, but it's not spoken to directly in the platform. My interpretation is that we're against the wealth tax. So if anyone has any disagreement. So those are the recommendations. I don't know if anyone wants more time. We can have a vote in the forum, or if people are comfortable with it right now, we can. Sure.
Just that part and put it in the form.
I can do that.
Request for information.
Yeah, there's 14.
Aren't those things kind of things that would have to do at convention?
Well, this is coming up in November.
This election is in November.
This November.
So we want to put
that's
out,
coming November.
so we want to put out our recommendations.
I
voter guide.
I was thinking next year.
The voter
Yeah,
guides.
this isn't for our platform, this is for.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the platform. Their positions are based on our platform. It's nice to have these just because it shows involvement, and it's, some people are looking for it. I mean, I did a quick search. I don't even think the League of Women Voters has explanations yet for them, from what I could tell. I don't know if any other party has done it. I know usually the Republicans, the Democrats do put out a guide, but I haven't seen one yet. So we could be ahead of the ball on this one. But it's up to you all. I can excerpt this and put it in the forum, drop it in the forum later, and people can debate more, as we all like to do.
This is good to work the polls and get recruit people.
And then finally, 88th legislative session. So we do have a postmortem. I'm going to ask Kevin to come up in a minute to speak on that. But one thing I kind of had promised at the last meeting is lawmakers should target versus non-threatening lawmakers. Now, this list is based off of some of the bills that they've introduced. So all of these people listed here are sponsors of either bills that we don't like on the left or bills that we kind of do like on the right. So, I mean, the SB 994, which was that horrible bill, that dirty, rotten, no good bill, that was introduced by Charles Schwetner, RSD5. So, Schwartner. To hell with Shortener, and down with Shortener. So if anyone's in SD, whoever's the representative in SD5, please reach out to people in your district. Let's get someone to run against Shortener. Just to stick it to them at least. And then non-threatening lawmakers, they've introduced some bills that are that are good, like medical marijuana. Higher standards for civil and criminal asset forfeiture. Those are actually pretty big deals. So yeah, those bills. And then if you can go down, then Kevin, if you want to come up really quick and just speak a little bit to your postmortem.
Yeah. Also along those lines, the people that we might want to oppose and or leave alone. I'm never going to discourage anyone from running against someone who's running for this. We've got someone who wants to run against them. We should not discourage that as long as we can not this person. But another thing is just committee appointments. We want to be watching these legislators when they start getting back on committees again. Like Reggie Smith, for example, it is good for us that he is the House Elections Committee chair. Regardless of his position as a legislator, it's good for us that he be the chair there. So that's something else that we can be looking for later.
Right. The list is not to discourage. We want people to run in every single race, but it's just to give you all some more information on where people stand. So it's not a discouragement. Let's get as many candidates as possible.
Okay, this is my legislative debrief. I've already sent it out to my direct reports, Frank, Andrew, and Whitney. Kyle posted it on the forum just moments ago, so you can go back and refer to it. Kyle, if you wouldn't mind, take me to the last page. Thanks. That way y'all can read the details and how I felt all the way through and where we can improve. But the 6 things that I do want to talk about are these, number one, we got to start way earlier in the off season. We need to visit their reps and senators in their home offices before or just after the elections between November and December, so that we get on their radar right then. That way, when the session starts in January, they know who we are. We can probably get an appointment easier, and we can start introducing ourselves to the staff and figure out who's doing what. Because some staff members will, take care of state affairs, others will do elections and blah, blah, blah. So they split it up that way when you're in there. Hold that thought, please.
It's on that topic.
There's a lot. Yeah, he's on the list. Okay, so that's number one. We got to start earlier. Let's get in there. Let's get into their home office before they get to the state capitol. Also, 1A here is the coalition building. We have to do a better job of that because we can leverage them. When I couldn't get somewhere, we were able to leverage some of our coalition partners to make our point. It's a little bit easier for them to let us know too what they got going on, and we can run over there and help them if we can do, because you really do only have like 72 hours to really get everybody mobilized and engaged. It's a little bit easier on the House side than it is the Senate, because on the House side, you can put in testimony via digital testimony. However, on the Senate, even if it's written, you still have to deliver it. So I'll get into that later. But so coalitions are super important. We need to start working on those right now. Some of the ones that I would like to infiltrate, one of them is, I know it seems counterproductive, but I do think we need to get involved with the Eagle Forum so that we can lighten their stance on even medical cannabis, because right now they're trying to take away the 1% teacup program because they think it's immoral. But we need to show them that the medical program is actually the weakest in the country, and it doesn't even qualify as a medical program. If you look across the country, it's very weak. So if we can get them to lighten their stance on that, we might be able to move forward in that regard. Number 2, learn the House, Senate, and House and Senate rules so that we don't have to depend on other legislators to get a point of order. If we can bring a point of order to a legislator or our current rep, they may be able to do it for us. The point of order helped us out on several bills. Busey took it on the nose for us for some of his bills because of the sacrifice he made for us. So that's something we could use. I wish we would have had a POO for the Senate, but we didn't. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot, guys. I'd probably.
Motion for 15 minutes to extend time.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So we need to be an asset on the floor there and the legislator. And one of the ways we can be an asset is bringing point of orders for them to investigate for themselves, and then of course put up on the floor whenever the time comes. So let's be an asset in that way. So let's learn the House and Senate rules, and they're usually already. You could probably go print them up right now, and I would love it if John Wilford would jump on that because he's so good at that. The next thing, and this is really important, is the build relationships with the staff in the first month of the session. Find out who's doing what policy-wise in every office. We can use our early lads to get this done and do recon work. I think I misused the volunteers' time and effort. I think we could have done a better job of not reading the bills and maybe using that time to engage the staff so that we did good recon. so that we can fill out maybe an Excel sheet telling us, okay, who's doing policy in what office, who's doing state affairs, who's doing elections, so that we get that information and put it all together. I think that'd be far more helpful to us on the ground, engaging in those offices when the time comes, when the bad bills get a hearing. Number 4 is to leverage the new tools like New Mode to engage our audiences into the calls to action. This is an opportunity to demonstrate that we are most certainly engaged and willing to go to the public when for the good purpose or for a bad bill. You know, we need to show them when they do actually give us some good legislation that we will be there to support them for that. Just like we will be there when they put up bad legislation to be there against it, which is more often the case. But showing them early, as soon as a bill gets, you know, a hearing date, if we can mobilize the CTA right away, we could possibly stop the bill from being heard if we could stack the testimony in a negative way, especially on the bad bills. Use L2 data to find opportunities. Obviously, he just did that. To go after some particular individuals, which he did list for me. The Swartners, the Hughes. Here's what happened with Hughes. Hughes put up the bill to double our filing fees. We had so many people testify that bill never got a vote in Senate. We demolished that thing right there on the Senate floor in front of everybody. I think it was so powerful that 1660 never got a hearing. Never got a hearing because of that response. So we killed Hughes's bill in Hughes's committee with our response. So don't think that your testimony doesn't matter. It matters. Also, on the testimony thing, we should never think that they're going to listen to us. Period. Use the testimony as an opportunity to make an ad for a single issue. Demonstrate where we come from on it, and demonstrate why what they're trying to do is bad or good, if that happens to be the case.
Yeah, most often it's so that other people hear it.
Yes, it's not about them hearing it. It's about us using that tape, which Amanda did a great job of, by the way. You see the jump on the YouTube, and during that month of May, it's because of her. She grabbed testimony from us, and we leveraged it, and that's the power that we could leverage at a far better rate if we get the full New Mode thing and really go after them when the session starts. So let's start earlier. Let's take these 6 things, go through, read the details. You'll kind of get a feel for how this session went and what my thoughts were going through it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the extra time, too. Did you have a question, David?
Just real quick, is there a particular protocol for scheduling appointments for local visits to their office, the legislator's office?
Usually a simple email or a phone call is all you need to talk to their secretary, and they'll get you a time.
Get on their calendar?
Yep, get on their calendar. The best time to catch them was just after the election, because now if they don't have a primary opponent, then maybe we can get to them in April or just after the primary, or early April, because they're probably going to be working with another candidate trying to help them get elected. So that's what I would do. Yeah, it's real easy.
Do you think that this election cycle, the legislators were more responsive to the time put in, reading bills and going to offices?
Yeah, the reading bills for us was helpful in identifying good and bad bills, but I don't think it really helped us on the legislative floor. I think that's why I would change our focus from the bill reading to actual engagement. And I don't care if you can make it down to Austin, you can still engage your staff with a phone call, an email, even a text or a tweet to, an X to the legislative, your rep, or all of the above. Yeah, exactly. So I think for us, it's building relationships that they know we're watching, and that we will be responding, and that we will take action and come down there and testify. Not just the 2 people or in this case, it was 2 people because Elizabeth was so awesome. And thank you, Mrs. Caucus, for paying for a lot of her stay. It was very helpful. The you could see in my notes where we got into focus, and it was all because of her. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, guys. Just a couple things about being there. He talked about the coalitions and, you know, being able to leverage the human resources that our coalition partners have when they're on the ground there. But us being there too makes a huge difference. And he already explained multiple reasons why. But you might be surprised when you're physically there wandering around how many people you know who are walking around there and who are there doing business you may not have even realized they would be there doing, because you don't interact with them on a regular basis and you don't know what their lives and their work is like. But I was there and ran into people that I knew who were there doing lobbying for other reasons. And when I could sit with them and share with them what we were doing and what the biggest problem we were having was, they would then start incorporating that into their conversations when they would go into the offices they were visiting, even though they weren't there for political things, you know, for election related things. So being able to be there is so important. It's like its own little, it's its own universe, and it has its own environment, and being in there is the best way to make a difference. And we saw that a lot this year. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be starting it in the off season. Like you said, let's go start that in their offices at home. And with that, I know that we did try to get, I reached out to all 5 of the state reps that are in the El Paso area, that represent the El Paso area, and the senator, to see if maybe they could come join us for lunch today. 3 of them actually responded positively and wanted to. It was just a bad weekend. I don't know if it's like school, going back to school or whatever it was, but they were very interested, and had it been last weekend, they would have loved to. The others didn't respond at all. But I believe that at least 2 of them may have been ones that actually spoke in their chambers on the floor in support of, well, in opposition to these bills that were basically going to eradicate us. So Mary Gonzalez, I think, is one of them. And so it is, and they were willing to come talk to us, and they knew that we're not Democrats. You know, they understood who we are. I sent them a copy. What I asked them to come talk about was border stuff, and I actually sent them the excerpt of our platform, our lift plank, and just so they have some perspective about who they're talking to. Yeah. And they were still very interested in coming to do that. And so you'd be surprised which seated legislators are willing to come engage with us. You know, because I guess in some ways we can do some outreach for them too if they agree with our policies and we don't have anybody running against them. So anyway, thank you, Kevin, and your whole team for all of that and for being there. And thanks to everybody who supported that effort, because having Kevin and Liz there and anybody else who was there on a regular basis to do those things and coordinate those things was very helpful. And our professional lobbyists indicated the same, that the red cards, all of us who were there doing the red cards, any day that we were able to do that was hugely impactful. But he also emphasizes that education, like educating the legislators in between sessions, is key to trying to prevent those bills from ever even like materializing. Yeah. All right, thank you. Yes, Jody.
Hello. So we'll start off with the SLEC meetings. We have the cost from each meeting. This one should end up being total of $458.98, so good price there. As you see, San Antonio was quite pricey. And then back at the Q1 meeting, originally it was put in at a lower amount, and it's at $914.25, but there were $210 of that was donated for tea and coffee. So that's some of the stuff that Andrew was talking on earlier about the way that reimbursements are working. So even though it's at $914, we're still trying to figure out exactly how we calculate those direct reimbursements for those things, because we're not actually spending that money, but so that we match with our numbers. Right now I'm leaving it there. And then Q4, this time I am ahead of the game. We will be in Dallas. So we already are located, we're already going to be there. And then I'm going to come back to the fundraiser being planned after we get through the stuff that's been going on here. The migrant donation drive went really well. I know there's a lot of people in this room who donated, people all across the state. I'm working on right now, I have the gift receipts and stuff, so I might want to try to get with Jenny with the thing of maybe trying to be able to thank people who sent stuff. not everybody put their name in there, but some did, so I would like to take a chance to thank those people. I added up just on the wish list alone, because we had stuff that got donated that was not on the wish list. We had a clothing swap in our neighborhood, so we had like clothing that was done and other things that weren't just on the gift list, but we had about $2,000 worth of donations sent to the church. The church was very grateful of it. When we went down there yesterday, if you would have seen it, there were just so many people down there with kids, everything. So I think they're going to greatly appreciate getting those donations, because it definitely is a border crisis going on down here. The drive is still up right now. There's a couple of things still on the list, and so we have redirected those donations directly to the church. So if you haven't donated yet, you might still be able to get something. And one of the reasons I think that we got so many donations is we smartly priced it. So we didn't do there were a couple of big items on there, but we made smaller items that were much easier for a lot of people to donate and contribute the amount that they actually could. And then we had multiple departments coordinating with the PRs sent out and the advertisement for the drive, which I did not know that Claire had resigned, but she actually did help out with the drive and stuff and help coordinate some of the stuff with that. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Dave Marino. Fantastic. How lucky the past was to have him. He helped with the lunch. He helped with the drive. He's helped with everything. They also, I don't have my names on me right now, your vice chair, and then who's the third person?
Bill Collins and Ryan Woodcraft.
Yes, thank you for the team coffee. Yes, thank you so much. And that, like I said, we always are trying to get that donated and not have that come out of budget. We all know what's it called, the Tea Gate or Coffee Gate of 2018. So we are avoiding that forever. And then also Wayne Uggle for providing his establishment and setting that all and getting us a special menu and running it and working to get us back on time. So we were close. We were close. A little bit better getting there a little earlier, but we were very close. Yeah, we were together. As long as you're with the chair for lunch, you can't be late. So that's how that works. That is how that works. All right. Go up to fundraisers. Okay, so the Enchanting Liberty Banquet was great. Honestly, we had fantastic attendance. We basically sold out. The show was fantastic. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. And we made money. So the silent auction that was run through the development department with it made $3,500, funds raised at the banquet. So the ask that we did was $2,100. The directed donations, which again, this is something back into the budget of how exactly we do these reimbursements, because they were sponsorships and reimbursements of expenses for the magician. And then ticket sales were $9,910. The total cost of the event was $13,010.26. So as you see, these kind of events do get pricey, but we made all that money back. We actually made a profit of $800 just from the entire thing, from just the ticket sales. But then the total profit with everything was $64.01, which is almost, it's like a 49% profit on the money that we spent. That's really good. And I've talked to Andrew about this, about how much we should be making off of the actual fundraisers. And one of the main things is we really, it's not that we want to price tickets out to make a whole bunch of money on that. We want these events for sure to cover themselves, but we want to open up the opportunity at these events for the development department to fundraise at these events. And we have to be making events that get those kind of big donors out. They get the people who come out and who are going to be willing to spend the money, who are feeling the camaraderie and enjoying being there and having a good time, and then they open up their wallets for us. And I know Kate appreciates that too. And so down here you'll see my expenditures. Fundraisers is $12,944 and 14 cents. And you're going to see a $60 difference from what Kate says, and that's because we are waiting for a.
I did it.
Oh, okay. So it's been fixed now. Okay. So it has been officially fixed, but it was after Kate's report, so those numbers will now match. But it was a reimbursement for some alcohol. Yeah. As we do. The SLEC meetings were at $1969.69.
Yeah.
So far, and we seem to be,
Nice.
with what's coming up, will be projected to be right at around budget for that. And then discretionary, we're at, now I have it at $1,008.73, but that's because I'm including the $500 that went to operations.
That's not how it goes.
Yeah, so mine's wrong and Kate's is right, and mine is at $508 and something. So, yes, that's budgeting and learning how to work all these things that's the learning curve right now. And then we have our objectives for short term, working with the development department to get revenue reimbursements, the sponsorships for a November fundraiser. And then working with comms to get the advertisement created and out for a November fundraiser. Since we're already figured out we're going to Dallas next, the long term is actually looking for locations for, and I think it's February 17th is what you changed it to. Is that correct?
Yes.
I feel like that's where I read that from as I pulled that one. But for the February SLEC meeting, I'll be looking at that. There has been some requests for something like Nacogdoches. So maybe we're going to be looking around for that. Okay, and now we're going to go back up to, I guess you don't really need to go back up to, it's about the fundraiser. I have been working on something for a fundraiser for November since I left San Antonio. And it is, do we talk about what it is yet, or do we wait for that, like what we're looking at doing, or just, so we're looking at doing a burlesque show for our plank with, and someone said this last night, instead of sex work is real work, but sex work is human rights. So that kind of goes with our plank. And that's something I think we can all get behind. That's not super on the politicized side. And people love these kind of shows. So I think it could be a real moneymaker. And now here is the issue that we have with trying to do this. We've already spent our budget. We have made it back, and it is already back there. But if we are to move forward with doing this kind of event, that we're going to have to increase the budget. And I've heard from the past that it was discussed about doing something, a policy change in a way that would be actually how this budget works. So that when you replenish it, that then you have that money to work with again, which I would say is probably the better way to do it, because what we don't want to do, honestly, is you don't want to then have to ask for $24,000 and then have a chance of like, now you could just spend all that money and you didn't make it back initially. So it takes a lower risk for us to do it on kind of like that rotating of a budget versus having it as the entirety when we vote to do the annual budget. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Question, point of information?
Yes.
Hold on a second, are you done with that part? Is the question related to the very last thing you just said?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to explain a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I'm finished with my report.
Okay.
So the question is, I think it would be easy if we just had the sponsors directly paid, but I'm also concerned that that's an ethics problem.
Yeah, and part of the problem is that it might not be the full amount, right? So we got $3,900 in sponsorship reimbursements for the magician,
Right.
but like that doesn't cover the entire cost, right? So like you can't make that payment plus then you have the way that we have to make. I feel like you would hate that, so I would say that we probably don't want to do that.
So the problem is if you look at the SLEC bylaws and expenditures, the way it tells us how we have to actually structure the budget. It says expenditures and income. That is how I have to create the reports and do the budget. Well, that means even if she gets somebody to cover it, I still have to report it as an expenditure, and then the income. So obviously in that simple plus minus thing, and then it results in this, it's that, but it's on a very, very broad spec. So she's trying to operate based on an event and trying to keep it as cost effective for the event. But the way events do budgeting and they do it, because I've done event budgeting several times, it's different from what we do it as SLEC. So she's having to adjust in order, and it's just been a misunderstanding and adjustments.
Yeah.
But we're trying to figure out the best way to make it fit with the organizational budget and then how she's doing it. So we're on the same page. The money's not any different.
Right.
It's just how the picture is painted.
So, and as an example, if she's got $12,000 in her operating budget for fundraising for the year, she needs that money to work with so that she can secure, pay deposits and secure things. And if somebody else comes in and sponsors a thing that she's already sent money to, it doesn't come back into her budget line.
Right.
Which actually harms her ability to do the next thing.
Yes.
So that's kind of.
So that's what we're looking into fixing. We can't fix it right now. So the best way to fix it based on our current bylaws is I'm actually moving to increase her fundraiser event line item by $10,000. So she is able to spend the money needed for that. And of course, that again, you'll see the income. You'll see the income.
Yeah.
It's just, we have, the way the bylaw states, I have to report it as such. So to get you guys the money you need to get things going, I moved to second. Doing it right now. Yes, doing it right now.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, point of clarification, Kate, you're
Yes.
gonna add a line that says expected donation, just like we have expected members.
No.
No.
So I'm asking.
Fundraiser line.
So, okay, I should say, the motion is I move to increase the line item fundraiser events by $10,000 and authorize the expenditure thereof. Thank you very much.
Point of information. Is this a long-term solution?
No.
This is to get them to be able to do what they need to do for this next fundraiser, and so we still operate within the restrictions of our bylaws. We are going to have to fix the bylaws or policy or something so that they can operate in a different manner. And I think this is just going to be a department thing. It's going to be events department, maybe development department, but no other departments will be, the way I see it, will operate off.
And I don't know that it requires a bylaw change. It does require a policy.
According
It's
to
a
the
bylaw, so
bylaws,
we have to do that at convention.
What's that?
Does that have to be done at convention?
A bylaw change I can mention, but policy no.
yeah, but it's like bylaw.
So that's
It's under expenditures.
About reporting.
Yes.
So couldn't that be something we can do in the future? Change.
Well, it's not reporting how we budget, is what it says. It just says how we budget.
Well,
Alright.
I'd be interested in working with you.
So,
Okay,
we've got a few people
Awesome.
we should talk about.
Okay.
How much time's left, Sharon?
And-
One
and
thirty.
did that
Hold on,
change?
Let everybody.
Go for it.
There's a minute 30 left.
Okay, so where we are is there's been a motion made and seconded to increase the fundraiser event line in the budget
By 10,000.
by 10,000 and authorize the expenditure thereof. It has been seconded. Clearly there are people with hands raised, so is there objection to that? Okay, I don't hear any objection, so it's
Yes.
done.
Yes. there's-
Yeah.
I'll give an objection to it.
Okay, what's your question?
It's a question, yeah, but I can only get to that.
Go ahead.
How do we offset it somewhere? Where are we getting it?
How do we offset it?
Well, we don't have a zero-based budget, so. We don't. If you're trying to get everything back to zero, you don't have to do that because we're not operating on a zero-based budget right now.
Okay.
So it's not something, it's coming from the general fund, if that's what
We
you're
have more
asking.
than enough to cover it.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
we
yes.
have the funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're asking where it was coming from, the answer is general, the general
Yeah.
budget, okay.
Then we're taking the
Yeah.
sponsorship and putting them in general fund, so it's a wash.
It's just basically authorizing she can spend
I just
up
wanna
to
make sure that we're
10,000.
doing the
Yeah,
wash, that's all.
doesn't mean
Yes.
that's,
Yes.
that's it. So,
Yes, that's a good question. It's not being offset anywhere, it's just coming from general
Yeah.
funds, releasing some money
Because
from
we have
general
an
funds
excess
to
in
that.
general because we're getting sponsorship too.
Exactly. Okay, all right, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That noise was the timer. Okay.
No, no.
All right, so we are now to, what time is it?
2:30.
2:34.
Does anybody need a bathroom break?
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
I thought there would be a resounding.
Yes.
I wanted
Please.
Yeah, I'll do that real quick. Okay. Okay, so two things. We've got two fronts here. One, the big one that we've been in for years and years with other interested parties, co-plaintiffs. I feel like I've already shared everything on this one, but basically, the judge ruled in our collective favor on one of like the 6 or 7 things that we had been fighting over. The one thing that he did rule in favor of was granting us relief on the requirement that we use paper petitions should we ever be in a position to try to get back on the ballot. The state law requires paper petition, which is stupid. Yeah, so we did get relief there. He didn't obviously rewrite the law for us. He put it back on the state as the defendant and the co-plaintiffs to come up with a proposal and like, you know, an actual order on it. So at first we thought that we were going to be able to work together on this, but as you know, the state is, they don't always tell the truth. And so even though they were initially saying, oh yeah, we'll work together and come up with a plan, they decided to appeal it, or they decided to file their own order, which was basically still allowed them to require paper petitions somehow. And ours, of course, was electronic means and, you know, much broader options. And the judge chose ours, obviously. And the state then appealed that. And so that would be the Secretary of State's, I mean, the Attorney General's office, by the way. Yes. No surprise. So we then were in a position to decide whether we were going to file a counter appeal or a cross appeal. And I actually was the only co-plaintiff who preferred not to for a couple reasons. But anyway, I was outnumbered. And the alternative was for me to pull us out of this lawsuit, which I wasn't willing to do. So there's no cost to us for that one. It is being handled. The Center for Competitive Democracy is supporting that one. So my concern is that it's going to, if we're filing a cross appeal, we're basically resubmitting all of the things that the judge either didn't rule on or didn't grant us relief in, and basically asking this appeals court to now review all of it, which means it's going to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit is not at all friendly to us and our goals typically. So that means that all of these things are now going to be put back on the table for the Fifth Circuit to rule on. And once the Fifth Circuit rules on them, that door is closed for any of those things that we have been fighting for all these years. And that is the number of petition signatures that are required, the small window of time that they give to get those signatures, the filing fees, multiple other things. And so that was a concern that I had, that if we put this in front of the Fifth Circuit, they're going to do what they do, which is most likely not going to be in our favor. And then we're now going to miss opportunities later in the future to continue fighting those things or reopen those or refile. Because they'll basically be, you know, there will be no reason for lower courts to even hear them because the Fifth has already ruled in that case. So our attorneys are doing that anyway. What we've done so far as of now is just we've notified the court that we are going to be submitting a cross appeal. The cross appeal has not yet been written. I have not seen it. And once it is filed, of course, I will post it for you all to see. Do you have a question about that one specifically? Or okay.
Yeah. So I'm with you on why you voted against it.
Yes.
Can you explain what the people who voted for the cross appeal, what was their strategy? What was their thinking? Because the risk is pretty clear.
Their feeling is that there has never been a case. This is an unprecedented case. That they feel it is a very, very strong case. They've got tons of evidence that West Benedict, for example, has been instrumental in providing a lot of historical information about when we became a political party, how, you know, what it took to get us here, how long we maintained, things like that. And they just felt like, you know, these things are going to be ruled on at some point anyway. Why not just do it now? We've come this far. And I'm trying to figure out how to say this without giving away political strategy on camera. But I will say that the other parties, the other co-plaintiffs they don't share the risk that we share right now with opening up this thing at the Fifth.
Yeah.
So it was easy to understand why they were for it. And also from their perspective, easy to understand why I wasn't, but here we are. So we're gonna hope that we get some victories there and that it doesn't do damage to our other one, which at this point is within the next couple. We were originally supposed to have our trial on September 5th.
regarding the filing fees. With the judge asked to confer with us about that, given the pending legislation at the time that had not yet been approved, which was 994, et cetera. But, and now with 994 having passed, it does kind of change, it changes the view, it changes the picture of what we're actually dealing with, but it is not completely different. 994 is already incorporated into what our claims are. So at this point, we just need to adjust our petitions, our claims are, and then resubmit. And we've got, you know, permission from the judge to do that, but we do not currently have a trial schedule or anything like that. So the timeline is currently open, but within the next 2 weeks, we will be filing our amended pleadings. And I'll of course report those to you when that time comes. Mr. Garza and Mr. Hale.
Regarding the first lawsuit, you said that there are other parties, not just us.
Correct.
And so you also said that typically the Fifth Circuit is hostile to us. So would it be accurate that there's a higher chance of a favorable decision because those other parties are attached in that lawsuit?
No, and by us I meant the body of co-plaintiffs generally, because it's independent voters, independent candidates. It is Texans for Voter Choice. It is the Green Party, the Constitution Party, still third parties and independents, and the Fifth is going to be hostile to all of us as a whole. The reason why I say that, just kind of generally speaking, is the Fifth Circuit in its current iteration tends to weigh heavily on the side of sovereign legislatures. In other words, if the legislature decided it, then it must be good. So they're not going to mess with it, which is why I personally don't expect any more wins from there. But we'll see. The implication here is that if we fail at the Fifth, specifically related to the filing fees, then Judge Pittman in the lower court, who's currently hearing our other one and had already ruled in our favor on this one, with regard to the petitions at least, will now not have any reason at all to even hear or continue hearing the other one that we're in. And that one, I feel, is incredibly much more impactful with regard to the filing fee specifically, because it is targeted than the larger one, where the filing fees were kind of added on as an afterthought and then not updated with the now 2 different legislative cycles where those laws have changed. So that other one, the big one that we're going to the Fifth Circuit with, they'll have to rework the filing fee portion of those claims. So anyway, that's what I've got there. Yes, Mr. Burns.
We'll talk about the details later, but has Jared weighed in on whether or not he felt it would behoove us to pull out of that case because of its possible and probable impact on our other case?
He would not encourage us to do that. I think that's outside of his, he just wouldn't do that. I don't think that would have been appropriate, and I didn't ask that question. But he is aware that it was happening and has the same concerns that I have, obviously. But I did talk to, and I did actually express my thoughts about possibly pulling out and why it wouldn't necessarily work for us, because I actually thought, well, what if we do, and then they get a ruling that we knew that we were going to get? Are we still in a position to have standing to come back and say, yeah, but we weren't part of that, so that doesn't apply to us. It's different for us, so we're going to go ahead and file like this new original lawsuit. And what I was told is that the fact that we were in it already and since the beginning would kind of make that move. And they'd be like, yeah, but you were in it long enough. You know, it does still apply because we're technically still in the same class as those other plaintiffs anyway. And so, but for whatever reason, maybe it just wasn't appropriate for him to give any more specific direction on it. Just kind of like, okay, let's write this out and see how far we can get, and maybe we'll have success in both of them. But we can go to him directly and ask, you know, because we could still do that if we needed to, but I wasn't advised to do it, even though I mentioned that option.
Clarify for me why it wouldn't be appropriate for him to weigh in. Jared's our guy, right? I mean, he's not beholden to any other party in our case.
I can't speak for him.
Okay, okay, but that's what he told you.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, just.
I'll call him.
He's not going to tell me to do that or not do that.
Right.
Mr. Westbrook.
At one point, this is totally different. At one point, I had suggested that we make our attorney who's donating such time, make him an honorary lifetime Texas member. Does that ever go anywhere?
I mean, it's a lovely gesture. The question is whether or not he would, or either one of them would want that on their records. Not all of them want to be politically affiliated, and that could potentially be considered to them or by others some sort of affiliation. But it is a nice gesture, and I do think that yes, there are grounds for doing something like that.
That's
It's
also
just a matter.
decision of the existing lifetime members. That's a decision for the existing lifetime members.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like procedurally, our lifetime members are the ones who get to decide who's an honorary. But yes, that's a good question, and it's not off the table. It's just there's some things to work out. Mr. Hale, I think the time has expired.
I know,
So
two things. So what you're telling me is that don't have to be in Austin on September 5th.
correct.
And the second thing is move for a bio break of 15 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Any objection to a 15-minute bio break? All right, let's do it. We'll be back at 3 o'clock. 3:01.
Dangerous objection.
What's that? The doors are still locking.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think, you know, Yeah.
You did a great job coming up there.
You know, I wonder about that girl. She hasn't changed.
Ready for our prom picture?
But she can participate. Really, just the county stuff while she's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she would have to, yeah, I guess since she's just there for school, technically Montgomery County's still home.
Yeah.
So she would have to vote there.
So she could get involved.
Residency law is 5 people, and it's very fun. So if she intends on staying there in Williamson County after she graduates, then she can change her residency. But if she doesn't, then yeah. Thank you.
We would enjoy the company. What? I can't hear you.
Oh, am I on camera? I thought there was like a.
Well, good. Well, the view counts are already going up.
You're a much better presenter than I am.
Oh, I know.
That was one of the things you probably know.
I pictured him just like just like.
I felt the exhaustion.
What do you want?
All right, let's come to order so we can. Okay, thank you. All right, let's have order in the room. We still have a good bit of business to tend to. The next item is new business with notice, which is the 2024 convention budget approval. That will be presented by Kate, but I just wanted to give a little bit of an intro. I alluded to this earlier about the convention planning so far that we're in. I was able to have really good conversations with the convention facility director, and was able to get about $7,000 kind of shaved off of the original proposal just for the meeting spaces. Don't clap yet. It's fine. It's all still good. It's all still good. But then they're kind of combing through all of the things that were put out in the original RFQ. There were a couple things that some of them may have overlooked. Kate helped point out, things like the parliamentarian, the cost for a parliamentarian. I felt that the expected cost of speakers and talent, for example, was a little lower than it might be now. Things are not as cheap as they used to be. So anyway, there were a couple things that basically brought it right back up to what you all were expecting when you chose Corpus Christi. But just to let you know that there there still are some concessions to be made. There still are there is still some negotiation to be done, and I'm working on that diligently. So we'll get that shaved off everywhere we can. So with that, this is basically, you might recognize this from the night of that meeting. There were the 3 proposals. They were all different colors. This one was the blue. Corpus was the one, I think, maybe in the middle. It was the blue one. Anyway, so that's just been pulled. Those numbers have been updated based on where, where we are in negotiations at this point. So I don't think they can see all of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they can see all of it. Okay, cool.
Double
All right.
clicked and it came
So,
up and I was like, yay.
So anyway, it is an ongoing process. We are well ahead of the game. Everybody in Corpus is being super, super cooperative and very much wants to have us there, and we're getting a lot of what we're asking for. So, so far, so good. Did you have questions for me or specific about numbers?
Just as margin, so it's more.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, you ready?
All right. So I'm going to break it down into kind of the basics of what we expect in convention. I'm not going to bore you with like the details of the breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. But what we're looking at is room rental, and that's going to be for the convention center. The original ask was, again, she had alluded to it, was too much. We were able to shave off consistent. I think you said 7,000 is what we were.
Yes,
8,000.
it was a little over 7,000.
Yeah, a little over 7,000. In that, so that brought that down. But after looking at miscellaneous expenses, like it wasn't just parliamentarian, but projected credit card processing fees was a significant portion that was not considered in the committee's budget proposals. Same thing with parliamentarian, speaker, and travel for speaker fees and all that kind of stuff was really low. And other miscellaneous expenses. Convention budget actually also deals with the expenditures that the several committees need. So if a committee needs badges or if they need printed materials or something like that, that actually comes out of the convention committee's budget.
The convention budget, not convention committee. We don't have that.
Yeah, well, yeah, but sorry. The convention team's budget.
Yes.
There we go. So that's where that comes from too. And again, those were things that were missed previously as well. So where we shaved off in room rentals, obviously we needed to reaccount for that in miscellaneous expenses. Our F&B continued to stay at $25K. Service fee and taxes are as such. Again, it's kind of as previously. AV is stayed the same. So what you were given at the presentation online is still the same. That was a lucky one because wherever we were going to go, we were going to use the same AV person. So that cost was actually going to stay the same. So we're looking at right now, convention total is at $78,758. Our deposit, is something we've already done. Reason why we haven't done the deposit. Oh, we haven't. Okay, gotcha. No, we haven't. Yeah, because we were waiting on the contract. Yes, that's right.
I got a second draft.
Right. And so we'll be doing that very, very soon. Our projections with ticket sales and side tables and sponsorships. So what I want to do is I want to remind people when it comes to event planning, you really inflate your expenses because if worse comes to worse in every situation, you want to be able to cover that. We have to have convention. Okay. But with income, we always project the lowest. Again, worst case scenario. So what we're looking at with the worst case scenario is that income. Okay. So we're looking at an estimated profit loss of 12. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the people who are planning this have had nothing but success in the past.
This is an estimated profit.
Yeah. Well,
if it were negative, it would be.
Yeah. Right. So we will. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. It's because it says.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I didn't see the slash there. So yeah, that's the estimated profit. It will be in my experience of convention planning and event planning, that will be a much bigger number in reality. So with all of that said, I move to authorize the convention planning team with a budget of $82,000.
I'll request for information.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to, it's not an amendment to the convention budget because it doesn't already exist. Basically to set the convention budget
Yes, yeah,
at, what number?
82,000.
That says 82.
82.
Well, that's
That-
take two.
No, those are ticket
Okay.
sales.
Yeah.
And the number that I'm proposing is not on here.
Okay.
It's basically a,
Right.
78.
It's
Yeah.
It's that number plus a contingency, which again, wasn't in here. And it's always good to have, because if we have like this A+ speaker that we know we're going to get our money back in ticket sales, then but it allows us to have the authorization to spend that, or if we have any kind of emergency situations.
so set the convention budget at 82,000, or set this as a convention budget, but with the expenditures at 82,000 and authorize
The
the
expenditure.
expenditure. Also, just so you know, there is currently $36,000 in the existing convention fund, which that's exactly what that's for. We already have authorization to spend that, so that this is, you can, yeah, this is total.
Inclusion.
So this
of-
isn't 82,000 on top of that. It's just the total budget for convention, of which we already have 36,000 that
So
we.
It's
that we
authorized.
authorized.
You're raising to
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the expenditures actually will be, other than that 36,000, will be coming out of the general fund right now. And then, as you know, we have a policy that any proceeds from our convention go right back into that convention fund. That is just perpetually authorized for convention expenses. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to adopt an $82,000 budget for the convention with authorization to spend those funds. It has been seconded. Are there any objections? I see one person wishing to be recognized. What is your question?
Request for information, just making sure. How much different is that 12,000? I know it's what you said previously, is it's gonna be different and higher, presumably. But the 12,000, how much different was that from the night of the online meeting when we decided that location? I'm just curious.
They didn't have one.
Do you,
Because they didn't have any
oh,
projected income.
hold on, she's checking.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember if it was blank or not. I feel
I
like
don't
there was
believe there was
something
any
that,
projected income in that meeting.
I think she was using the same ticket prices from Irving
Right.
across all three proposals.
8,190.
Yes, that's what I didn't want to say that, but that's what I had in my mind.
Okay.
So this is increased from what you even saw on the.
And then on the second one, just the sponsorships, we previously talked about sponsorships, so that's stuff that it's gonna come out, but we're getting back later.
So, yeah, but convention budget, remember, is wholly separate from our organizational budget. This is the one thing that, yes, it'll be on TEC, but will be absolutely presented separately. So you will not see anything from convention on our treasurer's report.
Yeah, it won't be in our regular budget.
It will be an absolute separate.
Completely separate.
So we're not getting that 3,000 back.
It'll still,
It'll-
yes, it would still be
yes.
applied the same way, but not to our main budget. It would be applied.
Convention budget
to the
operates on a
convention
wholly separate, different rule set too than our organizational budget. So we operate the convention budget like an event's supposed to be actually done, not by our baseline budget that SLEC has to operate on. That makes sense?
Those sponsorships will go back to the convention's
Yes.
bottom line,
Yes.
and then all of the proceeds from that convention then would go back into our convention fund, which is part of our main budget.
Thank you.
Is it something you need to say before we adopt this?
It's just a question.
Yes.
Is this, ticket sales, are they modeled after the 2022 convention or percentage of?
Kind of, but then with adjustments. And
Due to
we,
inflation.
yes, and we have not set the prices yet. We are working on that, but based on what we had in Irving and then some other adjustments that we are expecting to have to make, it is based on that. And that ticket sale number, as I recall, was the same one you used all the way across
Yeah.
the proposals.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was based on Irving.
And similar spaces is available for?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The conference center is, yes, it's capable of holding us. Yes, sir.
Clarification, you're at about a 4% contingency does that sound like enough?
Sorry, all I heard was 4%.
He's asking if it actually sounds like enough. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's
just low for a contingency.
Yes, and I understand that, and some of that is because two things. One, I'm also still kind of I am in the process of also negotiating a little bit lower F&B or some concessions to our F&B, so I anticipate a little bit of wiggle room there anyway. But I appreciate your concern there, and so the question is what we've added here for that contingency enough in light of the other things that we anticipate getting on the other end of this?
So the reason why I did 82 and not something like 85 or even 90 was because historically, we have operated significantly under budget, even last year. So I think with the people who are in place to bring convention to the finish line, I think we're going to see that happen again. So I'm comfortable with 82. The team that's planning this, which is as of right now, me, Whitney, we've got Jenny, Jody, and Andrew are the ones kind of guiding us
so
at the
far,
moment.
yeah.
And we've all gone through what now 6 hours worth of calls to discuss the numbers and the reality of everything, and we're pretty close. We're very
car
comfortable with
rides.
this.
I'm good, it was just
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's another, what he was really saying is, do you need more?
Well,
no, we all make mistakes.
Right.
Guess as far
I
as
appreciate that.
treasurer, I'm like, no, but if you want to give us more, sure, we'll take it.
What was the budget in 2022 for Irving?
It was 79.
79?
79,000 was what was authorized for Irving.
And what did it end up costing? What?
In the 50s?
54.
Oh, wow. We ended up spending 54. We made a lot of money last year, right? No, last convention.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been in a pretty good place for
Yes,
conventions.
we have.
All right. So I did not hear any actual objections, but there were questions, so I'm glad we got those out. So at this point, I will ask, are there any objections to adopting the budget as we see here for convention? Hearing no objections, we have a convention budget for 2022. Thank you. Now for the fun stuff. Yes.
I would like to make a recommendation on something we could do with that AV fee to raise money to pay for that. But I don't know how to go about that, if it's appropriate at this time or not. So that's my question.
Can we workshop it on the forums?
Tell me what's on your mind.
Okay.
We may not be able to solve it right now, but at least plant
another
the seed.
organization that I'm in, one of the things we did our last convention is we asked members and people who were there to help make donations specifically to our AV fee, and we were actually had it on the web and a whole bit and simultaneously, and to help us pay for that. And people were really tuned into doing something like that. So.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the team, about having options like a la carte options when people go to check out to buy their convention packages, having a la carte options, and that's actually one that we could add in there is, help offset the cost of our AV by donating another $50 or whatever. People could check that and add it to their packages. So that is an option. Yes, thank you for that. All of those kinds of directed donations / sponsorships we're always looking for, because it helps shave it off of our expense line, and we recoup that money that we can continue.
Yeah, remember, we have to have a state convention. So we have to spend money in order for us to maintain our position as a political party. And I think last time we had that discussion of what is the bottom line budget to have without ticketed events or speakers and all like that, just to do business. We were looking at the time, I think we had said 15,000. But with inflation and with the service industry and the way things have changed now, I think we had even had that conversation, and we said it was probably more like 25,000.
Yeah, 25 to 30.
So 25,000
to
just
bare
for the
bones,
cost of doing
delegates
business.
only. Yeah.
So yes, we actually talked about having that of, hey, would you just mind setting off the cost of doing business?
And with regards to the AV thing, just I guess maybe the day that I started heading here, we got some other suggested AV companies from the convention center. We haven't looked at yet, because so far I think this one still is the best one. So yeah. But anyway, we're still shopping them. We have not signed that contract yet, but
we just want to make sure we get the right thing for the best price. So, yeah, all your questions, I appreciate them. Good information, and our goal obviously is to have a successful convention and make money on it, as we always do. All right. Next item is the 2024 county delegate apportionment, Mr. Dar.
I'll pull the spreadsheet up for you.
Yeah, you pull up the spreadsheet. So we're gonna discuss everybody's favorite topic, giant spreadsheets and lots of math. Luckily, I've done it all for you ahead of time.
Yay!
So you just get to look over the numbers and get a little look at it ahead of time here. Had some help from Don Wilford that made filling in the remainder of the spreadsheet much more efficient for myself there, and was able to double check everything going on there. So those that don't know, if you look into the bylaws for the allotment of delegates, it goes by how well at the state the last votes at the state level candidates for each county there. So I've inputted those numbers for each county. It comes to a total. We come up with a divisor number, it's called, where it divides into that total. And for each of that divisor going in gets you a delegate slot. And per the bylaws, minimum 3. Minimum 3. So some counties should only get 1 if we were going by the divisor, but they're going to get a minimum of 3. Some counties will have more than that, because there's another part of the bylaws there that if you've had a candidate that was nominated at your county convention that received a vote above 10%, for each 10% up, you get an extra delegate. Yep. So in some counties, they would have had the 3. They're a small county. They worked hard. They got their candidate to get 30% plus. They got another 3 delegates. That means they got 6 delegates. So the small and mighty counties do get some extra representation for their hard work that they put in there. The larger counties also get that, which, as I look at the numbers, it really helps the smaller counties more as you look at it there. So I came up with a divisor of 4,600, which when divided into all the different counties, total possible delegates brings us up to 399, which is just one short of the total 400 space for delegate space.
Oh my, thank you for maxing out.
So it's maxing out there. When you look at the total number of delegates, again, when you look at the last convention report, it was between about 85 to 90% of the delegates were completely allocated there and on the floor. I think we'll still be getting at that same number threshold, because as I looked at the larger counties, you'll notice each of your larger counties that as kind of a marker there. The amount of delegates you were allocated is going to be very similar to what you were allocated at the last state convention. Huh?
Carry the 1?
Carry the 1, yes. So, does anyone have any questions about the numbers coming up to this point? Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. 400, does that include alternates? No, right?
That does not include alternates.
Do
So the alternates would be in the gallery
for
space.
alternate?
There's additional space for alternates in the gallery space.
Yeah. So at any given time, the seating, like what you see here, would be for $3.99.
Okay.
Or whatever number this is. Because alternates will just be filling in those spaces. The rest of the space it would be for gallery. Alternates would be there.
Room in the gallery for all.
Yes.
I think our last conventions as a guide, really we'll probably have 360 would probably be on the floor there. But trying to maximize as close as I can without over allocating so that somehow we've got 100%. We're not going to exceed our space.
We've secured space for as many over 500 as we can.
So just to clarify, if it hasn't already been said, is this a net increase of the total possible delegates compared to last year?
Last year it was 370. There's a small increase in the total number of delegates. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I want to say 20 to 30 delegates more than last year.
And is that probably due in part maybe to the extra delegates from the increases running for office and getting 20%, so 10%?
Repeat that question?
The additional delegates?
I didn't break down between those two for that particular question to be answered properly for you, I'm sorry. Because I'd have to take, I do have the last one, I could compare it.
Oh, no.
I was just trying to maximize the space to the maximum mobility there and not exceed our space allotment there in a way that would work to fit all our delegates and alternates. And probably, hopefully we'll maximize ticket sales by, maximizing our space and what we can actually fill. I don't want to say, I could bring that number all the way up to, 500, 600 delegates, but in reality, if we don't bring in that many delegates, we're over allocating our space. So looking at the last convention guide, that's where I was also going for this modest increase.
Give a link to this spreadsheet.
Yes, it is. It's actually in the SLEC forums.
Posted 11 days ago on the forum.
There's been several topics there, but there was one on
The name of the topic is 2024 delegate allocation.
Hang on one second. Are you finished presenting what you needed to present?
Yeah, that's all I need to present. I do have a motion to make as long as everybody is comfortable with this number after questions.
Mr. Ramos.
Is this all the potential counties, or is it only considering affiliate counties? Is there a way for?
This is holding all currently affiliated counties.
Okay, so if we have more counties that get affiliated between now and convention.
The deadline comes up, isn't the deadline for
That's my next
affiliation?
question.
Yeah.
End of the year, December.
Yes.
So we're quickly coming up to that deadline. So say if we affiliated 2-3 more counties, that's anywhere from 3 to 9 more delegates, assuming they're small counties. I don't think that will really break the bank, because oftentimes we do lose counties when it comes to county convention. If anything that happens, we'll come to a close wash, is my prediction. That's. I would love to see if we could break it a little bit. Fill up the number to the, if we fill up all our delegate spots, sell all those tickets, that'd be a great problem to have.
I'm confused a little bit, and that's easily done. But I get the impression that you got to this total possible delegates of 399 using that divisor ratio to make that happen. And
I fiddled with the number until I got to 399.
That seems like somewhere in my mind doing things backwards to get that number, rather than saying, okay, this is the actual number of delegates we get for each of these things. Am I confused somewhere? I probably am, but I just don't.
There's multiple ways we could go about doing this. So that this is just one way I took to approach it.
Well, I'm just thinking there would be a hard number that each county gets a set number based on the rules, and that's it. And you have so many based on that.
Well, it's based on that divisor.
You're trying to fill capacity, right?
I'm trying to fill
that you want to
capacity.
fit 499. You got 399.
So that tells me you're adding delegates.
Sorry, 400.
Yeah, 400 for delegates.
For delegate space, so we have the total space there.
Yeah.
So 400 for delegates, then we're gonna have, gallery area where alternates need to sit.
Okay.
We can have an equal number of delegates. We typically don't have an equal number of delegates.
So you worked it the way you could on the population.
On the
Or
population.
the number, yeah.
So trying to fit in 400 into the delegate space. Reality, then that leaves us with a maximum, you said 500 for the space, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 500.
Yeah, so we have 100 more spaces.
I'll
for
withdraw my question. You
alternates
can
to
answer
sit.
later. Thank you.
I don't think we could go more. We could go less.
That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out why you did that.
We could go less. I also, as a comparison point, I have looked at all the large counties. They're a little bit more. They're the ones that changed the most. So comparing to the previous report, most of those counties only increased by 1 or 2 delegates, depending on which county you are and how well the votes went. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment.
Oh, hold on. There's a line.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry, I shouldn't recognize. I should.
So, would you do later on, just get with them about the map?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Hale.
I was going to say make a question.
Oh.
Call a question.
Okay, but I have a question. Go ahead.
I was just,
I'll wait.
I was just going to. Body,
Did I
Go
forget
ahead,
something?
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna let the body know that the past couple of times when we had this discussion, we had the advisor battle, and Wilford and I have gone back and forth on this. And that was the result, that the idea was to find a reasonable amount of delegates that we fill out, because this actually goes to what's gonna help make us all profit. To sell enough tickets, there's a relationship between that advisor and our ability to make money. And so I think that you focusing on looking for that particular number is kind of the result of all the previous.
This year I'll get to changing tactics. Last year, I spoke ahead of time. I came in with a number lower, told Art to come in with a number lower, so people could increase it, and you guys went to the number I wanted. That was actually the maximized number. This year I'm just coming in straight to you. This is mathematically, as I've come to understand this, my best effort here of what should maximize the space.
Mr. Hill.
Call the question. All right.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, wow.
I didn't actually make my motion.
Yeah.
but I was entertaining questions before making my motion.
All right.
I have a brief question. Can you just, for the sake of Jack and myself, because I didn't know there was a divisor issue before, can you just say the math for what are you multiplying to get 399, just for the sake of that?
But it depends, because we have some county, so you get a certain number of delegates based on election results in your county. You get a certain, yes, based on election results, but then you have some counties that don't have that at all. And proportionally, they should get 0,
Yes.
or just 1, but we've just decided at some point in our bylaws that everybody's gonna get a minimum of 3. So you can't just apply a single formula or a single divisor to every single county. So it's not just a simple formula. So I'm not sure you'll be able to actually.
I'll give you one example here. Let me see. Are we scroll back to the top?
Oh, sorry.
Because right at the top, there was, some good examples here.
And this county gets an extra, it was a 3.
Guadalupe.
But they get the extra 2 because of the.
The Schmidt.
So
it's not
They get 5 instead of 3.
So it's not as simple as multiplying 4.6 times the number of votes.
No.
That's where it starts.
That's where it starts.
Okay.
There's a couple different, if you get in there and you can click through and see all the, I basically took the same document that Arthur used before, and I modified it because I don't believe in reinventing wheels. And went in there and this was, yeah. So, and I had to go into the affiliated counties, double check that the affiliated counties were correct for the current time. Mr. Wolfwood gave me a list there, double checked that, adjusted those, adjusted for each reported local candidate that I can find. The credential committee will, of course, double check my numbers, and if there's any missing candidates that I had missed, those will also would be additional ones that we show up there. So that's the one I'm more likely to. I'm like, well, there might be 1 or 2 candidates I missed, because Mr. Wolford found me a nice list that I was able to use to get the total numbers, but it wasn't very good on reporting the local candidates. So I had gone through and manually looked back at what was reported previously and looked through it in each county's personal website. In this case, the voting website there to get those totals. So it's a little bit painful because the Secretary of State doesn't make that part of it as user friendly.
I just wanted to know if there's a direct formula or not.
No. Like, everybody starts with a minimum of either 3 or whatever the number is based on your election.
Yeah, it's 3. You'll just get 3.
Yeah, like say that 5,000 should have 1, but they get 3.
Because we said that.
That's more straightforward.
That would be a good. Does that help?
No, that actually is.
Mr. Haskell.
They should have 1, but they're.
I remember my question now, was actually for body. Raise your hand if you have been part of state or any of the counties in your SEs that have not filled up their delegations.
But have not?
That was
Are
my
you
question.
including alternate? Oh, wait, no, take it back.
Filling up your delegation means you got a button in every seat, whether they're an alternate or a delegate.
There are a lot of counties.
There are a lot of counties that don't, so we're actually increasing this on the off chance that we're gonna have more people show up. But that's okay. We'll obviously cover the hybrid numbers anyway, but just for the sake of everybody's perspective, not all of these affiliates will be filling up these seats.
That was my question.
Yeah, so the ones that get three, a lot of them won't use the three. All right, Mr. Haskins.
I'm still not finding this on the forums or in Ignite or, I can find one with zeros everywhere. But I can't find the ones that.
Okay, someone will get you sorted out there. Scott.
Do we have, can we get a copy of the 2022 form of this so we can compare them side by side?
Oh, it's on Ignite. It should be.
It's in there.
Are you in Discord?
I'm on Discord, yeah.
He tagged me in a copy of it?
I'm gonna post the link to the thread.
My EC in that county is gonna want to see the copy, the side by side comparison.
I don't need.
There shouldn't be anything.
Yeah.
In the Slack channel.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the actual motion being, in accordance with Texas bylaw 5B to apportionment delegates and alternates, advisor total votes for each county be set to 4,600 to establish a 2024 LP Texas State Convention delegate and alternate obligations.
So,
Second.
if I may, all we're doing right now is setting the divisors, right? We're not actually setting these numbers, because as more information comes up from these individual counties, or we onboard more counties, the total number of delegates is gonna change, potentially. But the divisor we're gonna use is what we're choosing today. So,
But it shouldn't change that much.
it shouldn't change that much.
This gives us a good estimate to work with as we're.
What part of information do we need to say that it's adjusted by the relative performance of any candidate in that kind?
That's in our.
That's in the
bylaws. Okay, so the motion, you don't have.
That's why I cited the bylaw as part of it.
No, I don't, or there's a motion in the thread.
So the motion is, per our bylaws, we have to establish the advisor. This is what the advisor is proposing. This is what it potentially looks like under the current circumstances. So, that was seconded. Is there any objection to making 4,600 our advisor? Okay, done. And obviously, those numbers will be reported back out if and when they do change and as we add more counties. But it won't, nothing should get lower. All right, next on the agenda is committee reports.
No.
Oh, sorry, that's right, I'm looking at an old copy. Okay, so we have the motion to create, and I didn't put who was presenting that, but I assume it's.
I've got a motion for it.
Okay, motion to create an ad hoc committee for the Bruin resolution, go ahead.
Say 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Can we get that on the screen?
Yeah, she's getting.
She's getting it.
So I'll go ahead and read it while she's getting it up there. I hereby move to establish an ad hoc committee composed of 6 members with the exclusive objective of revising the Bruin resolution. The primary responsibility of this committee shall be to formulate a comprehensive report intended for adoption by the SLEC during the forthcoming quarterly meeting. The designated committee shall be consisted of as follows: Nathan Garza, Paul Dar, Nathan Polsey, Austin Dugan, Mike Dugan, and Dave Marino. In accordance with the sole purpose of the committee's existence shall be the revision of the aforementioned Bruin resolution and the subsequent creation of a comprehensive report and presentation to the SLEC. Upon the delivery of the committee's report at the ensuing quarterly meeting, the committee shall be dissolved. It is expected that the report's acceptance by the SLEC will also adopt the revised resolution as presented in the report and move to the assembly to vote on the establishment of this committee. So just
Second.
Two things to note there is just to make sure everyone is aware that the six members have all been talked to and have all agreed. It is an ad hoc committee that will be dissolved as soon as the report is given, and within the report, the updated resolution will be presented and that will be adopted as part of the document approving the report itself.
Okay, so it's gonna be
just a
one
single
motion
report. That's going to be a single motion to approve, and it's all
to approve the report and the
Correct.
resolution.
It'd be helpful for example, in the.
How is the report different than the?
Would it be helpful if what was in the
motion.
in the forum?
Let's take the right, no, not.
The SLEC? Sure.
Would that be helpful?
It's not to me, so I'm not gonna look at it.
Pasting it and putting it.
Oh, okay. You're talking about this, just this language right here?
Wait, in the Discord or forum?
He said Discord, SLEC channel of Discord. Are all of y'all's names spelled correctly? Those who are named here?
If not, I apologize.
If I did, yeah, please let me know. We'll figure it out.
We do, but I look at those Hoogan and Coogan are like spelled almost.
I know. When I was talking about that, I said, Coogan, and he said, oh, I mean, no.
All right, motion has been made.
You can't approve something.
I assume it was seconded, but I wasn't able to discern who did it. Okay, basically what this is doing is establishing the committee of those fine folks to do that very specific thing, report back to us in November, where, at which time we will take action on the thing that they bring to us. Everybody clear on it? Any objections to that? Cool, it's done. Yay. Now, platform committee.
I didn't want to waste your time. Woo! I'm gonna set my timer. So first of all, yeah, but I want to make sure I can have time for questions too, in case anybody has any. But I just want to say first a big shout out to Mike Dooling, Amanda Gibbs, Stephanie Berlin, Trey Holcomb, Luke Troxel, and Angela Venters.
Agatha.
Did I say what I said? Agatha, sorry, Agatha Venters. For being on the committee and dedicating their time, doing a lot of hard work, made my job really easy here. So since the last time we met here for SLEC, we've met 5 times, and unfortunately, in that time, one of our members has stepped down. Agatha had too much going on in her personal life, so she had to step down from our committee. We're currently discussing on the committee whether or not we need to refill that position or not, but we'll get back to the body with that once we decide. In that time then, so we finished reviewing all the planks that will be sunsetting, and so that work is done, so we'll be making our recommendation to the body at the convention as far as what planks we think need to sunset. But overall, I think I mentioned this before, but like our overall scope, we're kind of looking at trying to make the platform, not that it's anything wrong with it, but we want to make the platform very easily outward facing, easy to use for candidates, and possibly a more streamlined if we can help that. So that's kind of what our overall scope has been. So far, the work that we've gotten completed, our qualified immunity plank, we've completed that with the language that we want, so that will be presented. We're still working on massaging some of the taxation section to try to figure that out. So we're going to continue working on that. We're going to have a workshop at our next meeting to try to work that one out. So we have some dates set. So we've set the date of January 15th as our deadline for any proposals for new planks. So far we've gotten several new planks. What we're asking is that if anybody wants to present a plank, that they get with us and schedule a time so that we can actually hear them out. Because we like it to be a two-way street with these presentations. We'd like to hear your proposal. Obviously we can read the plank that you're proposing, but we want to have some time to ask questions and answers and ask what would be feasible as far as if we need to trim it down or change it or whatever. So that two-way conversation is really indispensable. So we ask that if anybody has a plank that they propose, that they go ahead and make a time to give it to us. Just a sec, right? Then we're planning an in-person meeting as a workshop. We're going to be doing it on the 27th, January 27th. So this is actually after everything is presented. And we're gonna try to workshop everything and get everything ready then, because we're shooting to have our final report done by February 23rd to present to the body, so everyone can review it prior to convention. So that is basically our dates, and that's basically all I had to give. Any questions?
Where do we send those blank propositions to? Like, do we email you, or where do we send that?
So, Stephanie, we're having to send it to platform by email, right? Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have a Google form that I've posted a couple of times that it'll go into there and you can like type up what you want.
And then in meeting with the committee, do we do that? Can we do that electronically?
Yeah, we'll schedule it with you, and so we're doing all our committee meetings on StreamYard, and so basically like Zoom, we'll give you the link, and then you can present. Like I said, for our qualified immunity one, for instance, Billy Pierce did a fantastic job of presenting what he thought the language should be. And so we got together, we crafted that language, and it looked really smooth. And Billy put his input into it, gave us some ideas and pointers. And we think you'll probably like that one pretty good as far as our qualified immunity goes. But like I said, we're still working on a couple of others, but that's that. Anybody else have any questions?
Are we tied to the national platform at all?
Nope. We have our own platform, so yeah, it's a little different.
We're not required.
No. I mean, we're the state affiliate, we're our own separate deal. So yeah, we're doing our own platform. If they change something, it doesn't have any bearing on us.
A while back.
Or we could add, if they change it, we could add it into law.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
We're just independent.
Yeah.
There are some states who, their platform, like it's written, like whatever nationals do. We're not.
We're big boys.
We're not.
We're Texas,
We do things our own way.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize. I'm not used to calling it bylaws.
We'll see you then. You can.
Bylaws.
Yes.
Rules.
Yes.
Yeah. And national, it's like second nature there.
All right, so this should be fairly short and sweet. So bylaws is in meeting on a fairly regular basis. We had our first public meeting back in May. So where we were going over everything, anything that anybody in public had or any members. Remember, all members have the right to present proposals before any of the committees of the convention. Generally, we have one vacancy. So after Carter Fanning resigned in the past 6 weeks or so, we do have a vacancy in the committee. We are seeking to fill that vacancy. We have 3 interested people. If anybody else is interested on serving on bylaws, we did hold a recent interview. We interviewed one of them. And so anybody who's interested, please just let me know. Or know somebody who's interested in serving on the bylaws committee, let me know. Our intent is to get that filled quickly and then get back onto our normal bylaws agenda. The main things that we're working, other than the minor pieces, is that we are going to be working on vacancy language. So we will figure that out one way or the other. We are going to have a SLEC training bylaw. The bylaws committee is very consistently recommended reducing the size of the overall body in order to make it more efficient. We are going to be doing a rework of the SLEC first meeting constructs, just to kind of deal with what we want and what we think delegates want versus what actually practically can happen after convention, after we've watched it happen once. So those are the main elements. I mean, there's a few other side things, but those are really the big meaty items that we'll be considering. Our next public meeting is on October the 15th at 7 o'clock. It is going to be online. So this will be the next opportunity to present items in front of the bylaws committee. Then I've already posted in previous reports our schedule for presentation of our report and our last date for submission of proposals. So after that, open it up for questions. All right.
So
thank you very much.
You're doing it? Yeah. Okay. Jesse's gonna present the credentials report.
All right, so what we've been working on over the past couple of months is really just kind of fine tuning all of the dates for our election cycle. So the reason that you see that Texas Secretary of State hyperlink highlighted is because they have not updated their site yet. So I've been emailing them. Yeah, shocker, right? I've been emailing the Secretary of State asking them if they can pretty please get that page updated so that we can have that link updated. All that said, I've combed through the Texas Election Code to firm up all of the dates for this election cycle. Ms. Jocelyn has put a second set of eyes on that to quality control, make sure that I did not miss anything. So we do now, in fact, have a full election cycle timeline. I do need to, now that we've migrated over to Nation Builder, I'm probably going to need to change some of those links and everything. But as the operations and IT team is going to be building out the convention site, this is content that's going to go on our convention site. So really just kind of starting, and I'm not going to go through the entire schedule. So if we just want to kind of zoom it down to the March timeline. So dates to be aware of. So we have the primary is going to be on Tuesday, March 5th. So obviously we're going to be working very closely with comms leading up to that date to be reminding everybody, pretty please don't vote in the primary. If you do that, it's going to nullify your eligibility to participate in a convention. So we will have a communications blitz around that just to make sure that everybody is crystal clear on the requirements there. Our conventions are going to be starting on Tuesday, March 12th with the precinct conventions. Then we are going to have our county conventions on Saturday, March 16th. District, where applicable, March 23rd. And then, of course, going into April, our state convention will be the weekend of the 12th to the 14th in Corpus Christi. So we'll get this up onto that convention website here pretty soon, but I just wanted to share those dates with you guys now. That way you can start planning, start, as you're having your county events, start making sure that everybody has those on their radar. It's a busy time, and that county convention and everything, that's typically falling over spring break whenever people are trying to take vacations with their kids and everything. So getting those dates in front of your counties sooner rather than later and making sure that people are planning their spring break vacation around that is going to be critical. So if we want to just scroll back up so everybody can jot those dates down for March, those are the dates that we're working with. The other thing the Credentials Committee is working on is circling back on the notion of credentialing electronically. So over the past couple of terms, we've been doing everything by paper. So we have our precinct rosters, we have our county rosters, our CEC rosters, our minutes and everything. Everything has been having to be done, scanned, sent into the records department. And there's been a huge effort to get all of those uploaded to Ignite, in warp speed so that the Credentials Committee can access that documentation and begin credentialing, because that has to happen really fast. It's an all hands on deck with the Credentials Committee right after county convention. In previous years, going back to 2016, we used a system called CORS, C-O-R-S, where we actually we had the counties submit their records electronically. Obviously, not all counties are going to be able to do that. We're going to have varying levels of, tech savvy, right? But for those counties that do want to submit those things electronically, we have started talking with Austin about revisiting the core system, or maybe even building something of our own if we need to. So I know that Bo Zimmerman, who is on the Credentials Committee and also on IT staff, is very much interested in this. I think he was the last person who updated cores in our 2016 cycle. So luckily we still have the institutional knowledge within the party to do that. But that is something that I think that those of you who kind of work at the county level will definitely be interested in. So it's going to require, if we can get it up and running, for to have like an iPad or a laptop or something to that effect at your county precinct and county convention, so that all of those delegate information can be gotten electronically. But we will, of course, still be providing paper copies for those folks who don't feel comfortable with that electronic option. So we obviously would want to have that tested by the end of the year. So deadline is, I guess, kind of loosely December 31st, but I would love to have that done sooner rather than later. The only reason we haven't started on it now, obviously, is because all of our tech equity has been gone into moving from city back to nation builder. So now that these guys are starting to kind of come up for air a little bit, we can hopefully in the next month or so start kind of revisiting cores in earnest, and then obviously we'll be doing a ton of testing and validation around that, and hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running. So don't have to scan everything and email it in anymore. It should happen automatically. All right. Just a recap of the credentials committee. That consists of Christy Ford, who is our chair. I'm the secretary of the credentials committee. Mr. Scott Peterson is our assistant secretary. Also on the committee, we have Jocelyn, Joe, and Darren, who are in the room. Darren took the place of Colby, who had recently resigned from the committee. So he was the next highest vote getter based on our February meeting. So Darren graciously agreed to come in on that. So I think that is all the news that's fit to print right now. Questions?
Just a reminder, since you reminded people about don't vote in the primaries, also make sure you're telling people don't sign petitions to put things on a primary ballot.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody's reminding people now, because they're starting to circulate.
Yep.
Especially CNN.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll work really closely with Jeff and with Amanda and Kyle and the comms team to, once we're getting up and running on that. On a side note, the bylaws committee, their next public meeting, that is out on the LP Texas events calendar, along with the Zoom link and everything. I'm happy to help coordinate any of that. So if, platform, you're having a public meeting, or credentials, whenever they have a public meeting, if you guys just want to feed that information to me, I'm happy to submit the form to get that up there. And Bo usually gets those up, within 24 hours or less. So just let me know. Oh, there it is.
Donovan.
Again?
Almost done, you.
Really is. I like that song.
Evidently, people think I'm a closing act or something. So LNC. So first of all, I'd like to say this will be my first time presenting to you guys as the Region 7 representative. Overall, with the LNC, there's been a lot of churn, a lot of consternation. I'm sure that if you're interested in following LNC drama, then you don't need to hear any of it from me because you've already read it all. So generally, if you want to talk about that drama offline with me, happy to talk about it. Overall, from a party standpoint, financially, the party is seeing numbers that are largely, as from a trajectory standpoint, mirror what the state party has seen. So generally declining, although not drastically declining membership, declining fundraising, although not drastically declining, but moderately declining fundraising. Generally, a lot of what the party has been spent time doing is rejiggering things with staff. That's been really most all the work has been dealing with staff members that have left, replacing those staff members, redefining duties. There's an incredible amount of institutional knowledge that has kind of walked out the door. So that institutional knowledge is now having to be, some of it is being rebuilt with new staff members. Some of it is being outsourced. So the LNC has been doing lots of work trying to get back on a solid footing when it comes to staff and institutional knowledge. Again, I think everybody's heard about stuff with Civi. Civi is still getting attention. However, much like with what Texas has been doing and going into Nation Builder, National has been supplementing Civi to try to continue to do its core functions of fundraising, membership tracking, the things that a party does. So Civi is still there. Nobody has said get rid of Civi, but at the same time, we still also need to get other things done, and wherever Civi is not providing the need, those areas are being supplemented by other areas. Major focuses, there is going to be another
large event in sometime in the works. They haven't got anything figured out, but likely be in the anti-war theme. We do have Operation Warhawk Removal. This is a national plan to go and specifically attack the members of Congress that are the biggest war hawks. So both senators and Congress people that are war hawks in the party. So it's both to weaken them both in any general election, but also in any primary election. So it happens sooner rather than later. And then there's been a big focus on fundraising. Lots of attention spent on gathering calls. The direct mails are going to be starting to come back out the door. The direct mails have been on pause for a very long time. Calls and courting of large donors. So large donors have also been, an area where we're trying to go take a look and see where we can get better at doing large donors. Important dates. October 31st. That is the end date for you to become a national member in order to be counted for the national delegate count for your state. So for Texas, you have to be to get our total delegate count. You need to be a national member. That's $25 a year. It's incredibly tiny. So please make sure that before that date, you tell everybody, make sure go sign up, go become a national member. In doing that, if you want to take it to a particular area like ballot access has been the biggest thing we've been fundraising on, biggest thing we've been courting donors on, is to do things like what we've done in Arkansas. Arkansas is getting ready to be back on the ballot. It's looking really good that they're going to reach their signature count with some room to spare. So efforts like that are areas that you can direct donate to. So if you need to make sure that the money goes into a specific spot, that also works for delegate allocation. So just become a member, become a sustaining member, and get counted. Platform committee. The platform committee date is December 31st. So December 31st is when SLEC needs to make their appointments for their members on the platform committee. The top 10 states with the highest national membership get to have a member on the platform committee directly. It is 10, top 10. What you're talking about is the next date after that. And next date is February, the end of February. So we are leap year then, so 29, 28, anyway, last day of February. That is the end date for appointments to the credentials committee. The top 5 states in national membership have get a member on the credentials committee for the National Credentials Committee. So those are the key dates coming into the National Convention. National Convention is in DC on Memorial Day weekend. 2026 convention site has been located. It is going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that will be where the 2026 convention will be held. The convention committee is beginning to work through and getting into particulars of the contract for that convention, but everybody's really excited to be going in Grand Rapids in 2026. Other than that, I think that's going to be the big stuff for on the LNC side. So open it up.
With regard to the adding national memberships so that you can add delegate seats for Texas, there's a big fancy formula that goes into that. It is not a one-to-one relationship. Do you know what the number of memberships at national, somewhere between 13 to 18? Okay. Yeah. So typically it's like 13 to 18 new memberships gets us one more seat. Yeah. So the sooner you have that information.
National uses a divisor system very similar to the one that you guys just got through doing spreadsheet hell over.
One difference is there is a cap. Yes. National delegates. Texas doesn't have a cap. We can make it however many we want. The national does have a total cap of how many delegates can ever be.
Correct. Kind of like you're aiming for 400 nationals is preset. So it's just changing the divisor to fill it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the 2024 convention solid?
Yes. They're beginning to finalize. You can already pre-register for some of the really high-end packages for DC. By the way, the theme for 2024 is become ungovernable. So that is the 2024 convention theme. So you can sign up for, I believe they already have the presidential tier for the 2024 convention set that you can get. Other packages and everything else for booking is going to be forthcoming very soon for the convention oversight committee. Other questions?
Thank you.
All right.
All right, at this time, are there any SLEC members wishing to make any announcements? I see Mr. Polsky, then I see Dave, and then Carol.
Oh, sorry. So for anybody who has or has not looked on the forums yet and seen the current proposal for the Bring Troops Home coalition that we're looking at, Scott Horton just posted something yesterday. Don't worry, it wasn't him. It was somebody posting somebody else's stuff. This is from the Bring the Troops Home. They just did a phone bank on Wednesday. They had over 60 people helping out nationwide with phone banking and had over 1,000 phone calls into the committee members in New Hampshire. And they flipped at least 2 of the committee members to support the Family Guard. So that's the kind of work that this coalition, once we get something going with that, we're looking to do here in Texas and helping out in other states as well. And then leveraging those other states to help out when it's our turn to go back to the table.
Yeah, Mr. Marino?
I just want to thank everybody for making the trip out to El Paso. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us, man. Me and Whitney had been conspiring to do this since prior to me being on SLEC. So we finally got it done, and I appreciate y'all making the trip out. While you're here, I would encourage you to go downtown around Sacred Heart Church area, and you can see where some of the refugees are. I call them refugees, you call them migrants, whatever you want. We had an issue where somebody had asked if they were illegals or legals. You know, one side calls it a migrant crisis, the other side calls it an invasion. What they actually are refugees seeking asylum.
Right.
So for your messaging, they're refugees seeking asylum. And while you're down there, feel free to take a trip down 375 Loop, which is the border highway. Look off to the south, and you can see the glorious George W. Bush border fence in all of its monstrosity and glory. So I encourage y'all to do that as well. And y'all blew my mind with that donation drive. I just like to let y'all know. I mean, I've never been prouder to be a libertarian. I mean, that was just amazing. For something that we probably will never get any political capital for as a party or as candidates, although I'm definitely going to use it. But for the rest of y'all, you probably won't get any political capital for it, but I really appreciate it. It shows where our heart is as libertarians. And the death penalty trial that I sat on, the Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, they send out a really nice form. It's really easy to follow. What they really want to look at is to make sure that it's all being done without bias. I did notice a few things that seemed kind of biased on it. I noticed that a few of the objections that the prosecution made was more sustained than some of the objections that the defense made. I did notice that there was 9 females on the jury and only 3 males, or 6 females, 3 males, 1 female alternate. So stuff like that is what they're tracking at the Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. If you're not familiar with the case, it was pretty cut and dry capital murder case. If you want to know the details why the death penalty is a really bad idea, it's more than just like we don't think that people should be punished for these horrendous crimes that they commit. The punishment, for one, I think they're getting off easy, but the cost of administering the punishment of the death penalty is innumerously more than the next highest penalty, which is life without parole. And generally, these people that get convicted of the death penalty, I did all this research before I went to the death penalty thing.
Nice.
Is most of them don't even die from the execution. Most of them die of old age or suicide. Yeah. So they'll die waiting on death row anyways. So they're pretty much getting life without parole. And then you're just considering all of the excess expenses from the death
Appeals process
trial.
is terrible.
Yeah, and then they're guaranteed an appeal. So like this guy just got convicted within 2 weeks. The trial only took 2 weeks. They went back when the sentencing only took 10 hours. And they convicted him and sentenced him to death. And he's already guaranteed an appeal. So just more taxpayer money going to fund this. So if anybody would like any more details about that, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm open to talk to you about it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if anybody else is interested in participating in something like that, we can let that group know and add you to their list. Thank you. Carol?
Well, I always like to sponsor, host a brunch in Harris County. I have not picked a location yet, but I am looking at the east side of Houston, aka Magnolia. This is a very prime Latino area of Houston. It's got a lot of history because it used to be its own city back a long time ago, because there's the city of Magnolia, but this area used to be the first Magnolia. And I'm still looking, there's several restaurants, but stay on Facebook. I will post it. It'll be posted on the state website as soon. I will know probably by Monday or Tuesday the location.
Thank you. Kyle? You had an announcement? You're good.
No, yeah, I just want to, with Nation Builder, right now it's set up every time someone makes a donation, I get an email. So I just want to thank everyone.
Welcome to my world.
That donated today. Jody, Jenny, Michael Coogan, Kate, Dave Marino, Nathan, Darren, Amanda, Mike Dooling, and Mary Palmer. Thank you for your donations today.
Just so you know, we're like about 10 minutes from our magical number.
Yes, I know. We're not gonna make it. Jody?
Since we have made a motion to increase the budget for the event, if you want to do some sponsorships for this burlesque show, reach out to me, Jenny, and we will set you up for it. So thank you.
There might be perks. Public comments. Is there anybody in the gallery visiting with us today who has anything they'd like to say or share? Well, you're not visiting, but yes. Go ahead.
Just a bit of housekeeping. Name badges are back on my shoulders, so you can sit back on the table or move and send them to me. Anyway, so just make sure they get back to me, please.
I'm just. Anyone else in the gallery wishing to be recognized? Thank you for coming, all of you who are back there. Yay! Thank you. And some of you for your Friday with us as well. Okay. You want me to stall for 9 minutes?
No! Yeah. We have a 5-minute final break.
Move to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you guys for another very successful site meeting. We did everything and we came to do and then some. So good job. Thank you for being here.